Hello Warhammer Explorers. Before we dive in, hit subscribe so the next transmission isn't lost to the warp. Every click tells me to keep building this universe with you. What if a space marine arrived in Star Wars? Brother-Captain Varro of the Ultramarines kneels in the dim chapel of the strike cruiser Invictus as the warp claws at the hull. The astropath's broken mind has shown him a far galaxy, a new war, and a rift where demons can spill into a world that does not even know the Emperor's name. Varro orders the tech priest to fuse the ancient Xenos gate to the ship's warp drive, turning the vessel itself into a knife to cut into that alien sky. He knows the price. The machine will burn out, the Geller field will scream, and his own gene-forged soul may be marked forever. He locks his armor, whispers, "For Terra," and steps into the light as the breach opens and swallows him whole. Above Coruscant, the sky splits like glass. The city planet's endless towers shine under the traffic lanes and the glow of 1,000 ships. On a lower level, a boy selling glow rods to passing crowds looks up as every light in the street flickers and dies. High above him, the clouds turn red and purple, and a jagged wound of light tears across the night. Republic control towers scream with alarms. On the bridge of a Venator-class star destroyer, Admiral Wolf Yularen grips the rail as sensor feeds go wild. This is no separatist weapon, the officer at his side says, eyes wide. Yularen stares at the huge wound in space forming above the planet, and feels, for just a second, very small. In the Jedi Temple, Yoda sits in silent meditation. The old master's eyes snap open as a pressure slams through the Force, sharp and strange. He feels fear, anger, and duty, but not in the patterns he knows. Something other, Yoda whispers. Far from this galaxy, this is. Elsewhere in the temple, Obi-Wan Kenobi stands on a balcony with Anakin Skywalker, watching traffic flow like rivers of light. The sky twists. Anakin's hand drops to his lightsaber by instinct. "Master," he says quietly, "tell me that's just a storm." Obi-Wan does not answer. The wound in the sky shudders and vomits fire. A jagged mass of metal shaped like a Gothic spearhead tumbles out of the rift trailing burning debris. Its hull is carved with statues and broken spires, gun decks and shrines all packed into one brutal shape. Half its engines are dead. The other half spit blue-white flame as the ship fights to level itself. On the streets far below, the boy with the glow rods watches the burning shape grow bigger. People are shouting now. Speeders slam into each other in panic. A woman pulls the boy back as debris rains down, shattering permaglass and crushing a transport in an instant. "Evacuate that sector," Yularen orders over the comm. "All emergency craft, get people off those levels, now." He points to the falling ship on the hollow. "Jedi Command, this is Admiral Yularen. Unknown object emerging from spatial anomaly. Impact imminent on Coruscant surface." Inside the dying strike cruiser, Invictus, warning runes burn red across the bridge. Tech priests chant as their consoles explode. The Geller field, the shimmering barrier that keeps the raw warp at bay, is cracked and leaking. Brother-Captain Varro strides through smoke and sparks toward the drop pod bay. He is huge, more than 2.5 meters tall in his blue power armor. Gold trims his pauldrons. The white omega of the Ultramarines glows on his shoulder. His right gauntlet grips a massive bolter, a weapon that fires fist-sized explosive rounds. His left bears the scratches of 100 battles. "Captain, the ship will break apart in atmosphere," a mortal officer cries, half his face burned. "Then I will not be on the ship," Varro replies, voice flat through his Vox grill. The breach holds. The enemy may follow. I will be the shield. He slams his fist on a control rune, and a drop pod door hisses open. For a moment, he looks at the chapel down the hall. The small shrine to the Emperor is already cracking as reality around it bends and pops. Varro feels a strange pressure at the edge of his mind. Not like the warp he knows, but something cleaner and sharper pushing against him. He ignores it, steps into the pod, and locks himself in. The pod fires like a cannon shell toward the planet below. From the streets of Coruscant, the burning spear of metal becomes a shower of fragments. One piece is larger than the rest, a dark cylinder wrapped in flame, punching its own trail through the air. It shrieks overhead, past towers, past panicked traffic, straight toward a crowded industrial district. On a loading platform, a squad of clone troopers from the Coruscant Guard shove people toward air barges. "Go, go, go," shouts Commander Fox, red markings on his armor scratched by years of duty. He looks up as the drop pod slams down into a warehouse across the street, tearing the roof off in an explosion of dust and metal. The shockwave knocks Fox off his feet. Windows burst. Smoke rises in a thick pillar. Screams echo from inside. "Separatist strike team?" one trooper says, coughing. Fox shakes his head. "We'd have seen the ship. Blasters ready. Move in." In the Jedi Temple's war room, hollows bloom to life. A blazing wound in orbit, a crashing wreck, a single hot point reading like a small moving star where the pod hit. Yoda leans on his cane and watches the feeds. "Sense this, do you?" he asks the other masters. Obi-Wan nods slowly. "It's quiet," he says. "Strong, but quiet, like a soldier who forgot how to shout." "Anakin, with me," Obi-Wan says, turning. Anakin is already at his side. "This is going to be fun," he mutters, but his eyes are hard. The two Jedi rush toward their gunship. The warehouse is half collapsed, its roof folded inward around the smoking cylinder. Clone troopers spread out in a loose ring, rifles up. Fox lowers his visor. "Thermal scan?" he asks. "Something big," a trooper answers. "Very hot, not a droid." The cylinder hisses as inner bolts release. A hatch blows outward with a bang, slamming into the floor at Fox's feet. Out of the smoke steps a giant. Blue armor covered in purity seals and battle honors. A helmet with red lenses like burning eyes. A heavy pack on his back, cables feeding roaring servos in his limbs. He stands taller than any being Fox has ever seen without a walker. Every clone rifle points at him. "Identify yourself," Fox shouts. The giant raises his bolter in one hand, the muzzle big enough to swallow a clone's fist. His helmet turns, taking in the troopers, the civilians huddling behind crates, the cracked ceiling above. Finally he speaks, his voice a low growl through Vox. "This world is not Terra," he says. "Stand down," Fox warns. "On the ground now." "I am Brother-Captain Varro of the Ultramarines, Adeptus Astartes of the Imperium of Man," the giant replies. "I kneel to no tyrant and no Xenos, but I protect the innocent." A section of wall explodes inward. Battle droids, thin and tan, march through the breach in tight ranks, blasters already spitting red bolts. Behind them, a hulking droidica rolls in, shields flaring to life as it unfolds and opens fire. Fox curses as his men scramble for cover. Separatists? How did they... Varro moves before the clones finish their first volley. He strides into the open, bolter raised. Blaster fire slams into his armor, leaving scorched marks, but not punching through. He centers the bolter on the first rank of droids and fires. Explosive rounds roar out, each one tearing a droid apart in a burst of fire and shrapnel. He walks straight toward the droidica as its shield flares and hums. The rolling turret's guns hammer his chestplate and helmet, bright lines of red energy sparking off ceramite and adamantium. Varro keeps coming, each step a thunderclap on the warehouse floor. At 10 meters, he switches to a different shell, a Kraken penetrator round. The shot slams into the droideca's shield. For a heartbeat, the air around it screams. The shield collapses in a flash, and the round keeps going, punching through the droid's body and turning it into flying parts. Metal and oil rain down. A Space Marine's bolter is not a rifle. It is a handheld artillery piece designed to erase anything man-sized that it hits. Clone troopers stare for one stunned moment, then join in. Blue blaster fire cuts down the remaining droids as Varro pivots, his bolter barking in short, precise bursts. He never wastes a shot. Every round finds a target. A stray blaster bolt arcs past and strikes a fuel canister. Flames rush up a wall of crates. A group of civilians trapped in a corner scream as fire closes in. Varro sees them, changes direction without a word, and launches himself forward with a burst from the power unit on his back. He lands between the fire and the people, grabbing a half-fallen support beam in both gauntlets. Warmth licks at his armor as he lifts the beam, metal groaning as he forces a path open. "Run," he orders, vox booming. The civilians scramble out, coughing. One little girl looks up at him, eyes huge. He cannot see her face clearly through his lenses, but he hears her whisper, "Thank you." A falling section of ceiling slams down onto Varro's back. The weight drives him to one knee, servos screaming, armor cracking. He growls, pushes up, and shrugs the rubble aside. But now there is a jagged dent in his pack and a red warning rune flashing in his helm display. His armor is strong, but not unbreakable. The translation through the breach has already strained his systems. His life sign readouts flicker for a second as the strange pressure in the air presses closer around him. He feels like he is moving through thick water, something unseen testing the edges of his mind. Gunship engines scream outside. A Republic LATI dropship hovers in the open street, side doors wide. Green and blue blades of light flash as two figures leap from the bay. They land in the dust and ruin like falling stars. Anakin Skywalker ignites his lightsaber, blue light casting sharp shadows. He takes in the torn warehouse, the wrecked droids, the towering armored figure, and the stunned clones in a heartbeat. "Okay," he mutters. "That's new." Obi-Wan's green eyes narrow as he studies Varro. "Commander Fox," Obi-Wan calls. "Report." Fox salutes. "Unknown object crashed, sir. Droids hit us right after. The giant helped take them down." Anakin steps closer to Varro, fingers loose on his saber hilt. He reaches out with the Force and hits a wall. Varro feels it too, a brush against his mind. He is no psyker, but he has fought chaos sorcerers and alien witches. Trained instincts make him lock down his thoughts, walling himself with iron discipline and holy litanies. "Stay out of my mind," he says, voice low. Anakin pulls his hand back, frowning. "He's like a void," he says to Obi-Wan. "There's power around him, but I can't read him. He's heavy." Obi-Wan nods. "I felt the same disturbance Master Yoda did. You are far from home, friend." Varro turns to face them. He studies their robes, their glowing swords, the calm way they hold themselves. "Witch soldiers," he says, bolter still in his hand. "You use powers like the psychers of my own galaxy." "We are Jedi," Obi-Wan says. "Guardians of peace and justice in the Republic." Varro glances at the frightened civilians and the burnt droids. "Then your peace is fragile," he answers. He plants the bolter's butt on the ground. "I am here because a rift in reality links my enemies to your galaxy. I will close it or die." A crackle of static from Ultramarines' voice fills the gunship's comm. General Kenobi, we have confirmation. The anomaly is holding position above Coruscant and growing. New energy readings along the edge. This is not a simple meteor event. Obi-Wan taps his wristcom. Understood, Admiral. We've made contact with an ally of sorts. We'll bring him in. Ally, Varro repeats. That depends, Anakin says, mouth tightening. Are you going to start shooting everyone you don't recognize? Or can you listen? Varro considers the young man's eyes. He sees anger there, and fear buried under pride, but also a hard will to protect. I am bound by duty, Varro says. I protect the innocent, purge the corrupt, and obey the will of the Emperor of mankind. We have our own Emperor, Anakin mutters, and he keeps secrets, Obi-Wan adds softly. Yoda's hollow flickers into life above a portable projector the clones set up on a crate. The small green master looks at Varro, and the force around them trembles. Yoda hums. From beyond the stars you come. Carry war and faith you do. Varro bows his head a fraction. You feel like a navigator, he says. Yet not. You are other. Much to discuss we have, Yoda replies. But grow, the tear does. First, to the temple you must come. Learn what threat you bring, and what threat follows. Commander Fox eyes the giant warily. Will he even fit in the gunship? He mutters. Varro steps toward the Elat. If your craft can carry battle tanks, he says dryly, it can carry one Astartes. As they lift off, Coruscant spreads beneath them in shining layers. Smoke still rises from the crash site. High above, the wound in the sky pulses, red and violet light spilling out like blood. Anakin stares up at it, jaw tight. I don't like this, he says. Feels like the Force is being pulled. Pulled where? Obi-Wan asks. Anakin shakes his head. I don't know. Somewhere cold. Far above, in a dark chamber hidden deep within the Senate building, another man watches the anomaly. Chancellor Palpatine stands before a window, hands folded in his sleeves. He keeps his face carefully concerned, the mask of a worried leader. But alone, his eyes glint yellow for a brief second as he feels the deep, strange wound beyond ordinary sight. This power is not of the Force, he whispers. In his mind, the dark side answers, coiling around the rift, like a serpent tasting new air. He senses hunger on the other side, a vast sea of minds that do not know the Force but burn with raw belief and terror. A smile touches his lips. New tools, Darth Sidious thinks. New paths. He stretches out with his will, probing the tear. For an instant, he brushes something that pushes back, not aware but heavy, like a distant storm. There is also someone inside, a single bright shard, a warrior, as hard and sharp as a blade. Sidious files that away. Commander, he says aloud, as Maz Amedda enters panting. Inform the Senate that the situation is under control. Our brave Jedi are already at work. Of course, Chancellor, Maz Amedda says, bowing. Sidious turns away from the window, his mind already racing with plans. In the hangar of the Jedi Temple, the gunship sets down. Mechanics and clone crews stare as Varro steps onto the deck, his armored boots ringing on the floor. The high stained glass windows throw colored light over his blue armor and the Jedi's robes. He senses many eyes on him, many minds trying to touch his, to read him, but his training holds firm. Yoda waits at the top of the ramp with several other masters. Mace Windu stands at his side, face carved from stone. Welcome you are, Yoda says, strange warrior of a stranger realm. Mace says nothing, but his gaze reads every line of Varro's armor as if weighing threat and value. Varro removes his helmet with a hiss of releasing seals. His face is pale and scarred, eyes a flinty grey. A small golden aquila, the double-headed eagle of the Imperium, hangs on a chain at his neck. He looks at the wide hall, at banners of the Jedi Order and the Republic, and at the rows of Padawans staring from the balcony. He feels the pressure in the air grow stronger, trying to push into his mind. "Your order uses powers beyond sight," he says. "In my galaxy, such gifts are rare and dangerous. They draw the warp, a realm of madness and demons." "The Force is not madness," Mace says. "It binds us, gives us insight, and guides our blade. But it can be twisted by the dark side." "Warp, Force," Varro replies. "Different words, perhaps not so different a risk." They bring him to a circular chamber full of hollows. The anomaly over Coruscant appears in the center, a rotating image of the wound. Numbers stream beside it: mass, energy, growth rate. Clone officers and temple analysts alike mutter over the readings. "It grows," one analyst says. "Slow but steady. The edges are unstable." "An object passed through, yes," Mace says. "Your ship." Varro nods once. "The strike cruiser Invictus. Most of my brothers aboard are dead by now, burned in atmosphere or lost to the rift. I chose to ride the storm rather than be crushed under it." "Why open such a thing at all?" Anakin asks, frowning. "If it's so dangerous." Varro looks at the hollow, at the ugly wound in the sky that he helped to cut. "Because our astropath foresaw that demons would find it, even if we did not. It was already forming, linking our galaxy with yours. I chose to cross and fight them here, rather than let them spill through on their own." Yoda's ears droop a little. "Already linked our fates were," he says softly. Mace folds his arms. "You may have made things worse," he says bluntly. "The dark side is moving around this tear. I can feel it." Up to now, a giant from another galaxy has crashed onto Coruscant, saved civilians in a warehouse battle, and been brought to the Jedi Temple as a possible ally or threat. As a strange wound in the sky grows and the dark side watches. "What enemies follow you?" Obi-Wan asks. "Creatures of the warp," Varro says. "Demons born of hate, fear, and lies. They feed on souls. They corrupt the living to open doors for them. They wear men like masks, and they never stop." He thinks of past crusades, of worlds turned into screaming altars. He does not mention how often his own Imperium has become as cruel as the monsters it fights. "The dark side does something like this," Yoda murmurs. "But not the same, it is. Stranger, colder." Mace looks around the circle. "The Separatists will not ignore this either," he says. "Count Dooku brings his own dark side tricks. If he can use the anomaly as a weapon, he will." As if summoned by his name far from Coruscant, in a shadowed chamber on a hidden Separatist ship, Count Dooku watches his own hollow. The image of the rift hangs before him. Dooku's eyes narrow with both fear and fascination. "This is beyond the usual games, my master," he says into the comm. Sidious's hooded hollow appears, voice a rasp. "The game grows larger, Lord Tyrannus," he says. "A door has opened between our galaxy and another. The Jedi will try to close it. We will learn its secrets first." "And if something comes through?" Dooku asks. "Then we will offer it a choice," Sidious answers. "Serve or be consumed." He cuts the link. Dooku stares at the rift image a little longer, then turns to the tall, cloaked figure waiting in the shadows. General Grievous steps forward, metal limbs clicking. His mask turns toward the hollow. "What new toy does Dooku want me to steal now?" the cyborg snarls. "Not steal," Dooku says slowly. "Observe. Take your fleet to the edge of Coruscant's system. Do not attack the planet. Not yet. Wait near the anomaly. See what falls out of it next. Grievous's eyes gleam. If something powerful comes through, I will take it apart, he promises. Back in the Jedi War Room, another holo flickers to life. This one shows the outer edges of the system, where separatist ships are starting to appear out of hyperspace, just at sensor range. That was fast, Anakin mutters. They're already sniffing around. They move when the dark side calls, Yoda says. Varro looks at the separatist warships, sleek and curved, so different from Imperial Gothic hulks. 2 wars touch at this wound, he says. Yours and mine. If we do not stop it, both galaxies will bleed. He taps the edge of his Aquila with a gloved finger. I will fight, with or without your leave. Mace meets his gaze. You are not in command here, he says. But you need him, Anakin cuts in. Did you see what he did to those droids? And he saved civilians without being told. That's more than I can say for some of our allies. Obi-Wan shoots Anakin a look, but does not argue the point. Yoda sighs, then nods. Ally, we will call you for now, he says to Varro. But rules there must be. Jedi command, you will follow in our war. Innocence, you will spare. Varro's jaw tightens. I do not slaughter the helpless, he answers. That is the work of heretics and traitors. I obey the Emperor, but I do not burn the innocent for sport. Then we have a start, Obi-Wan says, relief in his voice. He gestures to the holo. The separatist fleet near the anomaly will not wait forever. If they take readings, if they fire weapons into it, who knows what will happen? We need a plan. The room shifts into a war council. Admiral Yularen appears on one of the side hollows, his image surrounded by tactical data. Clone officers stand ready with troop strength reports. Jedi masters and knights weigh options, their voices calm but urgent. We cannot pull the whole fleet off other fronts, Yularen says. But I can divert a task force to the anomaly. Enough to hold Grievous back, not enough to crush him. And we dare not strike the anomaly itself, Mace adds. A misstep could widen it, or shatter it in a way we cannot control. Varro steps closer to the central hollow, studying the rift. He sees the way it wavers, the thin scars around it where reality has been stressed. The breach is tied to the device we used, he says. The remains of my ship may still anchor it on your side. If I reach them, I may be able to weaken the link. How? Anakin asks. Varro thinks of catechisms and battle rituals, of the tech priest's machine prayers, of rites meant to seal warp wounds. It is not only technology, he admits. It is faith, pattern, and will. We chant litanies that shape the fields. I can teach your people the words, or I can do it myself if you can get me there. So we send a strike team, Obi-Wan says. Up through the debris field, into the remains of your ship, inside an expanding hole in reality, while a separatist fleet prowls nearby. Anakin smiles a little. Sounds like a good afternoon, he says. Mace does not smile. It's madness, he says. But we may not have a better option. The longer the tear stays open, the more the dark side whispers through it. Yoda's ears flatten. Whispers, yes, he says. Voices, I already hear. Old. Hungry. Deep within the rift, something stirs. Not a demon of the warp, not yet, but a shadow of what could come. It tastes the force in this new galaxy, feels how different it is from the raw madness of the immaterium. It does not understand, but it hungers. The tear shivers, widening a little more. Sensors on the Venator flash red. Increase in anomaly size, a tech cries. Energy spike at the edges. On Coruscant, lights flicker again. People in the streets look up, afraid. At the same time, on a distant war-scarred world, clad in Beskar and flame, warriors in T-shaped helmets feel the change too. Mandalore's skies glow with strange colors as the echo of the Terra rolls across hyperspace. On a high balcony in the capital, Bo-Katan cries, grips the rail. Her armor bears the night owl symbol, her eyes cold and sharp. "What now?" she mutters as the stars seem to ripple. Behind her, an old armorer speaks. "Something has opened," the armorer says. "Far away but strong. New war, new glory, or new ruin." Bo-Katan looks up at the shifting sky. "We've had enough ruin," she says. "But if this threatens Mandalore, we'll meet it with fire." The tremor that brushes Mandalore is only a hint, a taste of what is coming. But it pulls at Mandalorian fate like a hook. Soon, war will not only be clones and droids, Jedi and Sith. Steel-clad warriors from two different galaxies will cross paths. For now, in the Jedi Temple, the War Council reaches its first hard choice. "We form a joint strike group," Mace says at last. "Skywalker, Kenobi, you go. Take a squadron of fighters, a small boarding craft, and our guest." He nods toward Varro. "Reach what is left of his ship. Learn what you can. Try to weaken the link. Do not engage Grievous unless you must." Anakin straightens, excitement and worry mixing in his eyes. "Understood," he says. "We'll bring back answers." Obi-Wan nods more slowly. "And if the answers are worse than the questions?" he asks. "Then adapt, we must," Yoda says. "Or fall, we will." He looks at Varro. "And you, Captain Varro, must choose also. To fight beside these Jedi, you will need to trust them. A little." Varro feels the strange pressure of the Force around him like a wind before a storm. He thinks of his vows, his dead brothers, the burning chapel on the Invictus. He thinks of the little girl in the warehouse, whispering thanks. "I will walk with you," he says at last. "But know this, if demons break through, I will do what must be done, even if you do not like what that is." Mace's eyes flash. "We will not let you become judge, jury, and executioner in our galaxy," he says. "Then keep your house in order," Varro answers calmly. The rift pulses again, brighter, as if hearing their plans. On the edge of the system, Grievous's fleet powers up its guns. On Mandalore, warriors check their rifles and polish their armor, feeling war in their bones. Far beyond, in the dark thoughts of Darth Sidious, a new strategy takes shape. The breach between galaxies is open, and more than one kind of enemy is moving to claim it. The Venator-class Star Destroyer Resolute hangs at the edge of Coruscant's gravity well, nose pointed at the wound in the sky. In the hangar, men, machines, and one giant prepare for war. Brother-Captain Varro checks each seal on his power armor by touch, not by rune alone. His fingers move with old habit, tracing purity seals, feeling the slight tremble in the left knee joint, where a tyrannid's claw once bit deep. Servitors clank around him, carrying crates of bolter magazines and heavy shells. Clones jog past in their white armor, helmets under their arms, moving in perfect step. Anakin Skywalker watches from a few meters away, arms folded. "He's like a walking tank," he says quietly. R2-D2 whistles beside him. "Not just a tank," Obi-Wan answers. "A tank that thinks and prays." He nods toward the parchment strips glued to Varro's armor, each covered in tiny Gothic script. Varro finishes with his armor and checks his weapons. Bolter, maglock to his thigh. Combat knife the size of a clone sword, sheathed at his waist. Frag and crack grenades on his belt. A small, black iron symbol of the Aquila inside his gorget, where it will rest against his skin. A clone trooper steps up, helmet under one arm, helmet paint marking him as Captain Rex. "Sir," Rex says, looking up and up, "Skywalker says you're on our boarding team." Varro turns his helm toward him. "Your name?" he asks. "CC-7567, but everyone calls me Rex." "You're all brothers," Varro says, noticing the small blue marks on the armor of the clones behind Rex. "Made for war." Rex shrugs a little. "That's the idea. We try to do some good along the way." Varro offers a small nod that, from him, is almost warm. Up to now, Varro has crashed on Coruscant, fought droids, met the Jedi, and learned that the rift he rode here is growing while separatists gather like wolves at its edge. In the briefing room, a hollow of the system spins slowly. The wound hangs in space like a red-purple bruise. Shard-like debris from the Invictus orbits around it, some pieces still glowing hot. Icons for a small Republic task force blink in blue. Farther out, the faint red marks of a separatist fleet hover like patients. Admiral Yularen points with a stylus. "The anomaly is here at this vector," he says. "Our task force will drop out of hyperspace short of it. General Skywalker will lead the fighter screen. General Kenobi will command the boarding element with Captain Varro." He glances at Varro's huge form, trying to hide his unease. "Your target is this," a clone analyst says, adjusting the hollow. A larger chunk of debris zooms into view. It is twisted metal and broken halls, but parts of the old ship's shape can still be seen. At its core, a dim blue shape pulses in the hollow like a heartbeat. "The remains of your ship's warp drive," Obi-Wan says, looking to Varro. "Warp core, Geller generator, and the Xenos gate we fuse to it," Varro says. "Together, they anchor the breach. If we can reach the shrine around them, we can begin the rite of closure. It will not seal the wound, but it will slow it." "And give us time," Anakin says. "For the war, time is more precious than fuel," Yularen agrees. "But you will only have minutes before Grievous's fleet reaches weapons range." Mace Windu's hollow stands at the back of the room, arms crossed. "Remember the rules," he says, looking at Varro. "You follow Jedi command. You do not detonate anything that could widen the breach, and you do not treat our men as expendable." Varro's grey eyes are steady. "Every soldier is expendable," he says, "including me, but I do not waste lives. I invest them." Anakin's jaw tightens at that. Rex glances at him, reading his commander's mood. Yoda leans on his cane in his own hollow window. "Listen, you must," he tells all of them. "The dark side stirs around this tear. Not only ours, something else. Cold, hungry. Take care." "We will, Master," Obi-Wan says. Varro speaks, voice low. "On Macragge, my chapter teaches a simple creed," he says. "Duty, honor, survival of the Imperium above all. Here, there is no Imperium, but there are still innocents. That is enough for me." Anakin nods slowly. "We protect people. That's what the Jedi are supposed to do," he says, "even when the Council forgets." An Ultramarines motto is simple: courage and honor, but each captain shapes those words into his own code. The plan is simple and deadly. The Resolute and her escort will jump in with shields up and hangars open. Skywalker's starfighters will clear a path through droids and flak. A gunship, retrofitted with extra armor and mag clamps, will carry a Jedi boarding party, a squad of clones, and one space marine into the heart of the wrecked Invictus. Once there, they will fight their way to the core shrine and perform the rites. "The Geller field is broken," Varro says quietly, as the hollow shows their path. "The warp will bleed through. Your minds will feel it." Anakin smirks. "We've been in worse places," he says. "Right, Master." Obi-Wan does not smile. They step into the gunship. Varro has to duck deeply to clear the door. His armor scrapes the frame. Inside, clones strap in. Rex takes the forward seat, opposite Varro. Anakin and Obi-Wan stand at the central handholds, robes tight around their armor plates. The hangar bay doors open. Stars rush by as the Resolute jumps into hyperspace. The blue tunnel stretches on for a brief, quiet moment. Varro closes his eyes and whispers a prayer to the Emperor, words in high Gothic rolling in his helm. Anakin watches him, feeling something thick and steady in the air around the giant. Is that faith? Anakin wonders to himself. Like the way people believe in the Force, but harder. The stars snap back to points. The anomaly blooms ahead, much closer now. On the main viewport of the Resolute, Yularen and the bridge crew see it at the same time. The wound twists slowly, its edges frayed, lightning crawling around it. Debris from the Invictus spins nearby, turning on slow paths. Farther out, sleek Separatist cruisers sit like spiders around a web. Battle stations, Yularen orders. Launch all fighters. The hangar decks roar with sound. Jedi starfighters streak out in tight formations. Anakin's yellow ship leads the way, R2-D2 chirping in his astromech slot. Behind him, blue and white ARC-170s and V-wings pour into the black S-foils locking into attack positions. Vulture droids rise from the Separatist line to meet them. "Stay close, Ahsoka," Anakin says into the comm, as his Padawan's fighter swings up at his side. "I'm right behind you, Sky Guy," Ahsoka Tano answers. Varro hears their voices on the gunship's shared channel and files the names away. The gunship rises from the hangar into space. Its shields flare as stray laser fire flashes nearby. "Boarding craft away," the pilot calls, heading for the main debris mass. ETA 90 seconds. Clones grip their weapons tighter. Varro takes one step forward and plants his huge gauntlet on the deck to steady the gunship as it jolts. From the cockpit, the view is chaos. Starfighters twist and roll, green and red bolts crisscrossing in endless lines. A Venator's big guns fire in slow, heavy pulses, lighting up the flanks of a Separatist cruiser. Explosions bloom like brief, ugly flowers. The anomaly hangs in the middle of it all, uncaring. On one of the Separatist flagships, General Grievous leans over his tactical display. "Jedi scum," he rasps as he sees Skywalker's transponder code. Of course he comes. His yellow eyes flick to the strange debris chunk on another hollow. "And there is our prize." He looks at a tactical droid. "Send boarding pods to that wreck. I want whatever is inside." The gunship dives toward the chosen mass of wreckage. In the distance, Varro can see the twisted spine of the Invictus broken open. Some parts glow with false light, sickly colors that remind him of the warp storms of the Eye of Terra. His vox whispers warnings from damaged systems. Geller flux, unbound, psi-reactive. The pilot grits his teeth. Closing in, mag clamps primed, get ready for a hard latch. The gunship spins, lining up with a torn hangar bay in the wreck. At the last second, a stray chunk of debris slams into the side, rocking them. Varro moves. He grabs a falling clone with one hand, jerking him back into his seat. "Strap in tighter, brother," he says. The clone nods, wide-eyed. "Thanks, sir." The gunship hits the wreck with a metallic screech. Mag clamps slam on. Air hisses out of the gap between hulls. For a moment, everything is noise and rattling. Then the pilot shouts, "Seal holding, we're in." The troop bay doors blow open. Varro is first out, bolter raised. Gravity is wrong here. The wreck spins slowly, so down shifts as they move. Broken chains, cables, and bodies float in the air, bumping gently against each other. The walls are scorched black, holy symbols melted and twisted. Clones follow, boots magnetized to the deck. Obi-Wan and Anakin ignite their sabers, blades humming. Rex gestures to his squad. Form up. Watch the corners. A whisper brushes the back of Anakin's mind. He hears distant screams that are not there. Faces that are not clones or droids flicker at the edge of his sight. Men in strange armor, mouths open in battle cries. He clenches his jaw. What is this place? He mutters. The warp bleeding through, Varro answers. His voice is level, but he feels it too. His gene-coded mind fights the pull, repeating litanies in silence. Hold formation. Do not listen to whispers. They are lies given sound. Codex note. Space Marines train from childhood to resist psychic terror. Their mantras are as much weapons as their bolters. They move deeper into the wreck. Dead servitors hang from cables like broken dolls. A shattered shrine lies open, its statue of the Emperor half melted. Anakin pauses, sensing something in the ruined chapel. Master, he says quietly to Obi-Wan, I feel anger here, and faith, years of it. It's like the Force, but twisted. Obi-Wan shivers. The Force takes many shapes, he says. Some are not meant for us. At the heart, Varro says, the core shrine is ahead. Blaster fire erupts from a side passage. A line of B-1 battle droids shuffles into view, rifles already firing. Red bolts streak toward the boarding party. Clones drop behind cover, returning fire. Anakin and Obi-Wan step into the open, deflecting shots back along bright arcs. Varro does not bother with cover. He steps straight into the droid's fire, armor ringing as shots strike. He raises his bolter and fires controlled bursts. Each shell smashes a droid into pieces, shredding metal and plastic. A B-2 super battle droid stomps forward, heavier rounds hammering. Varro's chestplate dents under the impacts, rune lights flickering yellow. He shifts his stance, absorbs the hits, then hurls a cracked grenade down the passage. The explosion rips the B-2 apart and tears a hole in the floor. Move, Rex shouts. Push while they're off balance. Clones surge forward, blasters flashing. They clear the passage and find another horror. This corridor is split open to the anomaly. The far wall is gone, replaced by a shimmering curtain of red-violet light that flickers and hums. Matter breaks down at the edge, small bits of debris turning into glowing dust as they drift close. Beyond it, stars twist in ways that make the eyes hurt. Do not touch it, Varro warns. Even a brush could turn you inside out. Anakin steps closer, feeling the Force tug at him like a tide. Is that the warp? He asks. It is where the warp and your space meet, Varro says. A knife edge. We must pass another way. They backtrack and find a more stable route. At last, they reach the core shrine. It is a wide chamber, once full of chanting tech priests and burning incense. Now it is cracked and tilted, half of its walls scorched away. At the center stands a large circular machine, half altar, half engine, glowing a deep, unhealthy blue. The hybrid gate, Varro says. Machine spirit is wounded, but not dead. He steps forward, feeling heat through his armor. The warp wraps around this thing, Anakin says, frowning. And the Force too. They're touching. Obi-Wan feels sick to his stomach. Let us work quickly, he says. Whatever this is, I don't think the galaxy is ready for it. Varro kneels before the machine. He places one gauntlet on a control column, the other on his aquila. He bows his head. His voice drops to a low chant in a language the Jedi do not know. In nomine imperatoris, he begins, words steady and strong. He calls on the Emperor, on the Primarch Guilliman, on the long line of Ultramarines who held the walls of Macragge. He speaks to the machine spirit, soothing it, reminding it of duty and purpose. "Can we help?" Obi-Wan asks quietly. Varro nods once, still chanting. "Repeat after me when I change pitch," he says. The machine spirit listens to voices, many voices, one purpose. So Jedi and clones kneel in a half-circle around the alien engine. Rex looks awkward for a moment, then shrugs and follows orders. Anakin feels strange, but the words feel heavy and real, not empty. They repeat the simple lines Varro gives them, a call and answer about closing, guarding, and holding. The air changes. The blue glow steadies. The flicker at the edge of the anomaly slows, its pulses less frantic. Sensors on the Resolute and on the Separatist ships both show the wound shrinking by a few %. On the Republic bridge, cheers break out. "We're seeing a drop in energy levels," a tech says. "The anomaly is stabilizing. No, more than that. It's closing. Very slowly, but this is real." Yularen allows himself a brief smile. "Good work, generals," he says into the comm. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." On Grievous's flagship, alarms blare. The energy spike is changing, a tactical droid reports. The anomaly is reducing in size. Unknown cause. Grievous snarls. Impossible. Something is interfering. Focus fire on that primary debris mass. Destroy whatever they have there. Separatist turbo lasers swing toward the wreck. Beams of green energy lash out, slamming into the wreckage near the shrine chamber. The whole structure shudders. Ceilings crack, beams groan, and a chunk of bulkhead tears free above the chanting circle. "Look out," a clone shouts. The bulkhead falls. Varro lunges, slamming his shoulder into the falling slab. The impact drives him to his knees, Servo screaming, but he holds it for a moment. "Finish the line," he roars. "Now!" Anakin and Obi-Wan shout the last words of the litany, voices loud. The machine's glow snaps brighter, then settles, more steady than before. The tremors in the air ease, and the sense of pressure in the room drops. Varro throws the bulkhead aside, panting. His armor readouts bleed into orange. Power reserves drop. Warnings about microfractures in his left pauldron flash in his vision. He looks at the reactor. "The right is incomplete," he says, "but we have bought time. Days, perhaps weeks." "Sometimes days win wars," Obi-Wan says. "If you use them well," Varro answers. Then the floor explodes. Droidekas and B-2s smash up through a lower deck, shields already flaring. Behind them, spinning pods slam into other parts of the wreck, disgorging ranks of battle droids in tight formation. Grievous has sent his own boarding teams. Rex curses. "Contact," he yells. "Defensive perimeter, protect the core." Clones throw themselves into cover and open fire. Varro moves to the front again, bolter roaring. He targets droidekas first, aiming for joints and shield edges, anything he can hurt. He stomps forward, each step sure even on the shaking deck. Anakin leaps into the middle of the fight. His saber becomes a blur, cutting droids apart in a dance of light. He uses force pushes to slam whole ranks backward, knocking them into each other. But more keep coming. "Sir, they're trying to flank us," a clone shouts. On the far side of the chamber, a narrow corridor leads deeper into the wreck. Droids are pouring in from there too, aiming to encircle the shrine. Varro glances at a schematic in his helm. That corridor connects to a wide fuel storage area. He makes a choice. "Rex," he says, "pull your men back from that corridor. Now." Rex looks at him. "We're holding them." "Fall back," Varro repeats, or you will die when I do what I'm about to do." Rex hesitates for only a second. "Fall back," he orders. "You heard the captain. Move." Clones pull away, firing as they go. Droids push into the corridor, taking their place. Varro pulls a crack grenade from his belt. He primes it for delayed detonation and throws it down the corridor with perfect aim. Then he raises his bolter and empties the rest of his magazine into the ceiling above the entrance, weakening it. "Run," he says simply. They run. The grenade detonates deep in the fuel chamber. For a moment there is silence. Then a blast of heat rips through the wreck. Fire roars down the corridor, tearing droids apart, turning metal into slag. The weakened ceiling collapses, sealing the passage with a mass of fused debris. A gust of hot air slams into the shrine chamber, knocking clones and Jedi to the ground. Lights flicker, alarms scream. The hybrid gate's glow wavers, but holds. "Report," Obi-Wan coughs. Rex checks his helmet display. "All present," he says. "No clone casualties from that blast." "Dozens, maybe hundreds of droids removed," Varro says. "The path is sealed. They will not flank us now." He does not mention the clones who had been in that area earlier in the mission, before they pulled back. He had seen bodies already there, dead from the crash. He had chosen his blast point with care. Still, Mace Windu's voice snaps over the comm. "Captain Varro, what was that detonation?" "A controlled burn," Varro answers. "To deny the enemy a path and reduce their numbers. The core holds. My men live." "You could have destabilized the anomaly," Mace says, anger edged in his tone. "I calculated the risk," Varro replies, "and I accept it. Would you rather we let them take the core?" Up to now, Varro and the Jedi have entered the wreck, slowed the wound, and survived a brutal boarding fight by using harsh tactics that put the mission above all else, raising questions about how far they should go to win. The last of the droids in the shrine chamber falls. Anakin slices a B2 clean in half. Obi-Wan deflects the final bolt into a droidica's power core, making it explode in a shower of sparks. Rex's men pick off stragglers. "Time to go," Obi-Wan says, before Grievous decides to cut this whole wreck apart. The hybrid gate hums behind them, its glow now a steady, slow pulse. Varro looks at it once more. "Hold," he whispers in High Gothic. "Hold until I return or you die." They retreat toward the gunship. As they move, parts of the wreck start to come apart. External hits from separatist guns have weakened the hull. Sections peel away, floating free, glowing at the edges. Through a hole, Varro sees the anomaly again. Something moves inside, not a shape his mind can grasp, only a suggestion of motion in many directions at once. He feels a tug, like hooks in his soul. The Emperor's image in his gorget grows hot against his skin. Anakin feels it too. He stumbles, grabbing a wall. "Do you hear that?" he gasps. "Hear what?" Rex asks, worried. "The screaming," Anakin says, "all at once, like a whole planet shouting and then going quiet." Varro grabs his shoulder, firm. "Look at me, Skywalker," he says. Anakin glares, but meets his eyes. "This is the warp's siren song," Varro says. "It feeds on fear, doubt, and anger. It wants you to fall. You must not." Anakin swallows hard. He is used to the dark side whispering at him. But this is different. No promises, no words. Just raw, hungry need. "I'm fine," he says through his teeth. "Lie better next time," Obi-Wan says softly, but his hand on Anakin's arm is steady. They reach the gunship. The pilot's voice comes over the interior speakers. "Boarding team, we have incoming fire. Once you're strapped in, we're pulling off hard." They pile inside, Varro last, covering the retreat with his bolter. The gunship tears free of the wreck, leaving the broken halls behind. Outside, the battle still rages. Jedi starfighters dogfight with vulture droids. One Venator trails smoke, listing, while another hammers a separatist frigate with turbo laser fire. The anomaly pulses, but its edges are more defined now, less wild. As the gunship races back toward the Resolute, Grievous watches from his viewport. Annoying, he snarls as he sees the debris chunks stabilize. They are altering the prize. Count Dooku's hollow flickers to life beside him. "You have gathered useful data," Dooku says calmly. "Fall back for now, General. Do not waste ships." Grievous twitches. "I can still press the attack," he argues. "We outnumber them here." "Not in the way that matters," Dooku replies. "We have seen enough to know our new foe. That armored giant, the way he fights. We do not charge blindly at something we do not understand." Grievous growls, but bows his head. "As you wish." Separatist ships begin to pull back toward the system edge. On the Resolute's bridge, Yularen watches them go. "They're retreating," he says, surprised. "We actually drove them off." "Not fear," Mace says through the comm. "Caution, they are planning something." In the war room aboard the Resolute, the debrief is tense. Hollows of the anomaly, the wreck, and the boarding route float in the air. Anakin, Obi-Wan, Rex, Varro, and several clone officers stand around the table. Mace, Yoda, and Yularen join by Hollow. "We achieved the primary objective," Obi-Wan says. Varro's rights stabilize the hybrid gate. Sensor readings show a measurable reduction in growth. "Droids attempted to seize the core," Rex adds. "We denied them. All of my men made it back from the shrine." He glances at Varro with respect. "But you detonated a fuel chamber," Mace says, eyes on Varro. "Inside a broken warp engine, with an active rift meters away." Varro meets his gaze without flinching. "I chose a blast path that would not strike the main core," he says. "The explosion did not widen the tear. It removed a threat. It protected the machine and the men nearby." "And if your calculations had been off?" Mace asks. "Then we would all be dead," Varro says simply. "But so would the enemy. I judge that better than letting demons or your separatists take control of the breach." "That's not how we fight," Mace says. "Perhaps that is why your war drags on," Varro answers. Silence falls for a moment. Anakin breaks it. "Hey," he says, voice sharp. "We are not afraid to fight. We're the ones bleeding in the mud while the Senate argues." Varro turns to him. "You fight hard," Varro agrees. "I saw that today. You also hold back. You spare enemies who might rise again. You place rules above victory." "Rules are what keep us from becoming the thing we fight," Obi-Wan says, quiet but firm. Yoda nods slowly. "Jedi way, this is," he says. "Life we defend, even of those who err. Chance to return, we must leave them." "Demons do not return," Varro says. "They fester, and men who serve them are tools, not victims." Rex shifts his weight. "With respect, sir," he says to Varro. "Those tools still scream when they burn. I've heard it." He looks at Yularen's hollow. "We follow orders. We fight hard. But we're not just ammo to be spent." Yularen's face tightens. "I do not treat you as ammo, Captain Rex," he says. "You're soldiers of the Republic. But the Senate." Anakin starts, then stops, angry words choking off. Up to now, the first real win against the Rift has shown that Varro's ruthless methods work, but they clash with Jedi ideals and clone humanity, forcing everyone to question what victory should cost. Mace steals his voice. "Listen carefully," he says to Varro. "We will fight with you against this tear. We may even learn from your experience, but we will not throw away our values. We do not bomb cities to kill one target. We do not burn worlds to stop a rumor. Varro thinks of exterminatus orders he has heard, but never given. In my galaxy, sometimes we must, he says. A world falls so that 10,000 more live. Then your galaxy is sick, Mace says, and I won't let you bring that sickness here. Varro's jaw tightens. Your war has already killed millions, he says. You just pretend you are cleaner because you do it one battle at a time. Anakin's fists clench. Enough, Obi-Wan says. We're on the same side, for now. He looks at Varro. Tell me this. If the only way to close the rift were to destroy Coruscant itself, would you do it? Varro thinks. He sees in his mind the city planet below, layers upon layers of life. Children, workers, senators, criminals, saints, all piled together. He also sees demons pouring through, turning towers into screaming flesh. At once, he says, no, I would try every other path. I would bleed myself dry buying time. But if no other path remained, and I believed the Emperor commanded it, I might. Anakin stares at him in horror. You'd kill trillions, Anakin says. To save quadrillions, Varro answers. Yoda's eyes closed. Hard truth, that is, he says. But choice also. Jedi way, not that is. Even if fall we do, trying. Then we must find another way, Obi-Wan says. Because I will not become the kind of man who presses that button. Rex nods, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. Good, he says, because we live here too. He glances at Varro. And for what it's worth, sir, you didn't press it today. You blasted a hallway, not a planet. Varro gives a short, rough sound that might be a laugh. Small comforts, he says. Small steps, Obi-Wan replies. The War Council ends with no one fully satisfied. Mace signs off, his eyes still wary. Yoda lingers a moment longer, looking at Varro. Fear of failure, carry you do, he says softly. Heavy burden for a soldier. Better my fear than my men's, Varro says. Yoda nods. Perhaps. But blind you, fear can, to paths unseen. Later, alone in a small, bare chamber, Varro removes his helmet. He places it on a low table and kneels, Aquila in his hands. He stares at the small golden symbol, feeling the distance between this place and Terra like a weight. Emperor, he murmurs, guide me. I walk in a galaxy that does not know your light. I stand with the witch soldiers who are not psychers, yet wield power like it. Show me how to serve your will here. Far away, in a dark throne room lit by red crystals, another man kneels in meditation. Darth Sidious opens himself to the dark side, letting it show him paths through the future. He sees the rift as a wound and also as a door. He sees Varro as a sword without a proper scabbard, sharp and dangerous. Who forged you, I wonder? Sidious whispers, mocking Yoda's speech pattern. He reaches deeper. For a moment, his mind brushes something vast and silent, like a mountain that sleeps. It is not the dark side, not the light. It is a will that has sat on a golden throne for 10,000 years, burning slowly. Sidious pulls back, eyes wide. Interesting, he says. Not a god, not quite, but enough. He chuckles. Even in another galaxy there are thrones. He rises and walks to an ancient holocron on a stand. It is not Jedi nor Sith, but something older and stranger, taken from the deep vaults of Malachor. He places his hand on it and pours the dark side in. Show me what came before, he says. Show me other wars. The holocron glows, projecting a hooded figure in Mandalorian-style armor with a split mask. I am Revan, the echo says, voice layered, both male and female at once. Sidious smiles. Tell me, Revan, he says, how do you break a perfect soldier? How do you turn a weapon like this space marine to your use, or neutralize him? Revan's echo does not smile. You do not break him with fear, Revan says. He already lives with death. You cut him off from what gives his duty meaning. You show him that his masters are not worthy, or you build a field that silences the power that shaped him. Sidious leans in. A field, he asks. Here, we use mass shadow generators, Revan says. Fields that twisted gravity, crush fleets and worlds. You have a simpler wound, that rift. Use it to tear away what he stands on. Make a null around him. Turn his faith into a cage. Power scaling interlude I, diegetic. Revan's echo continues, calm and cold. The soldier's armor resists blasters. His mind resists fear. But his strength comes from a bridge between his world and yours, from the same wound that brought him here. If you shape the wound, you can make parts of this galaxy where that bridge does not reach. In such a null, his machine spirit will falter. His body will still be strong, but his mind will feel alone, cut off. Even a perfect weapon doubts when it cannot feel its forge. Sidious thinks. A localized null field, he muses. Center it on the rift's frequency. Attach it to a ship, perhaps, or a blade. Revan nods once, then fades, the holocron dimming. Back in the Separatist command net, Dooku receives new instructions. His eyes narrow as he reads the data Sidious sends. Exotic energy curves, designs for a cage-like projector. Interesting, he murmurs. A weapon against the outsider. He summons a science team. You will build this, he tells them, pointing at the schematics. Use shards from the debris near the anomaly. Blend our field technology with their broken engine parts. I want a test device ready soon. Yes, Lord Tyrannus, the lead scientist says, bowing. On a secret Separatist lab ship, work begins. Droids cut pieces from the drifting wrecks, hauling them into shielded bays. Engineers splice hyperspace coils and dark side crystal arrays into rough frames. A cage of metal and light takes shape, humming at a tone that makes organic ears ache. In the days that follow, the anomaly holds steady. It no longer grows as it did. Thanks to the rite of closure, its edges are firmer, its pulses slower. But it does not close, not fully. On Coruscant, life resumes a shaky normal. Traffic lanes reopen, though people still look up now and then with worry. News hollows talk about a minor space-time disturbance and heroic Jedi action. They do not mention the giant in blue armor who helped. In the Jedi Temple, debate continues. Some masters argue that Varro is a danger. His harsh pragmatism, his talk of purging, his faith in a distant emperor, they all smell of trouble. Others, like Plo Koon, point out that he saved civilians without being asked and followed orders in battle. He is a soldier out of his own war, Plo says in council. We should not expect him to think like a Jedi. Then we must teach him, Shakti says, or send him away before he corrupts ours. Yoda says little, listening, eyes half closed. He hears the fear in his peers' voices, fear of change, fear of a new kind of power under their roof. In the temple training halls, Varro watches younglings practice with remote drones. Their small sabers hum, deflecting bolts, movements clumsy but full of heart. He sees discipline there and hope. He remembers his own youth, stripped from his home and reforged into an Astartes. You started them young too, Anakin says, joining him at the railing. Yes, Varro says, but we do not let them play with training blades. We give them real knives. The galaxy is not kind to the slow. Sometimes I wish the Jedi were less kind, Anakin says, bitterness in his voice. Might have ended this war already. Varro studies him. You are angry at your masters, he says. Anakin snorts. You're very observant. You have power and no trust, Varro says. A bad mix. Where I come from, such men either die young or become problems. Anakin smirks without humor. I'm trying not to become a problem, he says. Some days I'm not sure I'm doing a good job. Varro looks at him, sees the shadow of something future and dark hovering around him. Remember this, Skywalker, Varro says. Strength without a code is a beast. A code without strength is a prayer. You need both. That is the only way to walk through blood and not drown in it. Far away, on Mandalore, word of the rift reaches war councils. Bo-Katan stands at a table with other leaders, a hollow of the anomaly hovering above it. Republic and Separatist ships both near this thing, she says. If it tears a hole in hyperspace, our lanes could vanish. Our world cannot handle another blow. An older Mandalorian in scarred armor nods. Then we get close, he says. Not as allies, as watchers. If this war between wizards and droids spills toward Mandalore, we choose where to shoot. Bo-Katan smiles thinly. Prep a cruiser, she says. We'll make for the edge of their battle. No flags, no transponder. If this new warrior of theirs walks into our sky, I want to see him with my own eyes. The stage is filling. Jedi, Sith, clones, Separatists, Mandalorians, and one space marine all moving around the same wound in the stars. The first true alarm comes 1 week after the boarding mission. The Resolute and her task force hover near the anomaly, watching it, measuring every twitch. Varro stands on the observation deck, helmet under his arm, staring at the ugly light. Anakin joins him, Ahsoka at his side. Still ugly, Ahsoka says. Ugly things are honest, Varro says. They do not pretend to be soft. Ahsoka grins. You sound like a Mandalorian. Before Varro can ask what that is, alarms blare. New energy reading, a tech shouts over the deck speakers. Not from the anomaly, from the Separatist flank. An icon flashes on the hollow. A small, oddly equipped ship moving closer, holding position just outside normal weapons range. Inside that Separatist lab ship, the null cage powers up. Energy arcs between rods, humming at the same strange tone as the rift. Droids monitor a panel of readouts. Target lock established, one chirps. Anomaly frequency matched, ready to fire. Do it, Dooku says, watching via holo. A beam of invisible force lances out. It does not show as light. Sensors barely see it. But Varro feels it hit like a hammer made of cold. His Aquila goes numb against his skin. The steady background sense of distance, the constant awareness of the warp and of the Emperor's far light drops away. For the first time since his gene seed took root, he feels truly alone in his head. He staggers. Anakin grabs his arm. Varro. The giant's eyes go wide, breath catching. My link, he gasps. The warp is gone. Quiet. Too quiet. On the decks below, some relics from the Invictus, stored in crates, begin to smoke. They were small shrines, tools, fragments of engine. Now, in the null field, the machine spirits scream in, silence and flicker out. Rites carved into metal fade as if erased. Obi-Wan feels a strange emptiness brush the edge of the Force. It's like a hole, he says, hand to his chest. Not dark side, not light. A place where both are thin. Yularen hears reports. Shields holding, an officer says. No direct damage, but some of our instruments just died. On the lab ship, the scientist droids record everything. Null effect localized, they report. Anomaly resonance reduced in targeted zone. Exotic energy signatures from the foreign armor diminished by 70%. Dooku smiles. Enough, he says. Shut it down for now. We don't want to show all our tricks at once. The null field fades. On the Resolute, Sound rushes back into Varro's inner world. The warp presses at the edge of his mind again. His aquila warms. He sucks in a deep breath, shaking. "What was that?" Anakin asks. "A taste of death," Varro says. "Not the death of the body, the death of purpose. If they can make such a null stronger, I will be less, slower, easier to kill." He feels shame at how much the emptiness frightened him. Later, in the war room, the debate restarts with new fuel. They targeted the rift's frequency, a Republic scientist explains, pointing at graphs. By doing so, they also targeted whatever energy your armor and relics carry, Captain. "Null zone," May says, "a place where this warp of yours is thin. And where my techniques mean less," Varro admits. "I will still be strong, still fast, but less than I could be, and my rights will fail." "Could they use that on the planet?" Rex asks. The scientist pales. "In theory, yes," he says, "but the field is unstable. If they expanded it too far, it might snap and cause who knows what, a secondary tear perhaps." "Then they will keep it small," Obi-Wan says. "Use it like a blade, not a bomb." Yoda nods slowly. "Clever they are," he says. "Study you they do. Make a mirror weapon for you they will." "A weapon that cuts away my faith," Varro says quietly, "and leaves only the killer." Up to now, the Separatists have turned the very wound that brought Varro into a weapon against him, showing that his greatest strengths can be stripped away, and forcing both him and the Jedi to face the idea that his code, not just his muscles, must carry the coming fight. Even a gene-forged warrior's power has limits. When you cut away his faith and context, you do not just weaken his body, you risk turning him into exactly what his enemies claim he is. The next crisis begins with a whisper in the Force and a scream in the warp. Varro dreams he is back on Macragge. Snow falls on fortress walls. Tyranids swarm below, a sea of claws and teeth. He stands with his brothers on the battlements, bolter hot in his hands. But when he looks down, the swarm is not Tyranids. They are clones. White armor, blue stripes, the faces of Rex and his men behind broken helmets. They climb the walls like insects, hands bleeding. "Why did you spend us?" they ask in one voice. Varro tries to answer, but his mouth is full of ash. He wakes in the Medici bay of the Resolute. Pale blue lights wash over white walls. Machines hum softly, monitoring his two hearts, his enhanced lungs, his gene-coded organs. He sits up, tearing wires free. A droid nurse fusses. "Patient, you are not yet cleared." Varro brushes it aside with a gentle shove that still sends it rolling back on its wheels. "I do not need your clearance," he says. "I need a mission." Anakin leans in the doorway, arms folded. "You really don't know how to rest, do you?" he says. Varro swings his legs off the bed, the floor groaning under his weight. "Rest is for the dead," Varro says. "I'm not dead." "Yet," Anakin mutters. "Come on. Briefing room. Council wants to talk. So does the Admiral." They walk the ship's corridors. Clones step aside, giving the giant space. Some nod to him, a small sign of growing respect. Others look away, remembering the fireball in the fuel chamber and the narrow escape. Rex joins them halfway. "Sir," he says, "you look taller." "I am the same height," Varro says. Rex chuckles. Feels different. In the briefing room, hollows already spin. The anomaly hangs in the air again, its light steady but still ugly. Next to it, a new image appears. A strange, cage-like device made of metal struts, crystal nodes, and shards of wrecked warp tech. Obi-Wan stands by the table. "This," he says, pointing, "is the weapon we felt last week. The null field generator. Our sensors finally got clean readings." Anakin folds his arms, so they can turn your warp off like a light switch. Varro's jaw tightens. For a short time, he says. But yes. A Republic scientist, a thin man with tired eyes, clears his throat. The Separatists have mounted it on a mobile lab ship, he says. It stays close to the anomaly, drawing power from the same exotic energy. That's why normal jamming didn't help. Its field is tuned to the rift itself. Yularen's hollow flickers to life. Their goal seems clear, the Admiral says. They can project a null bubble around our ships, your armor, and perhaps even sections of the Force. Wherever they point it, your best people become less. Mace Windu's hollow frowns. Standard counters, he asks. Long-range turbo laser barrage, the scientist says. But if we destabilize the lab ship's core while it is linked to the anomaly, we could cause a secondary tear, or widen the existing one uncontrollably. So we can't just blow it up, Anakin says. Not from a distance, Obi-Wan answers. We need to go in, again. Varro looks at the hollow of the lab ship. It is smaller than the Invictus was, but still large. A flattened cylinder, studded with antennas, docking arms and shield nodes, all clustered near the rift. It feeds like a parasite, he says. We cut it off at the throat. Up to now, the enemy has tested a null field on Varro and shown they can weaken his link to the warp, while building a mobile cage around the rift itself that normal weapons cannot destroy without risking the entire galaxy. Yoda leans on his cane in his small hollow window. Invasion, this is, he says, not of ships, of ideas. Twist our Force, they try. Twist his faith, they do. Varro nods slowly. They do not just want to kill me, he says. They want to prove that what I am is a lie, that my Emperor's light could be turned off by a machine. If they do, others will lose heart. Mace's eyes narrow. You keep saying Emperor like a living person, he says, not a symbol. Varro looks at him. He lives, Varro says. On the golden throne of Terra, his will holds back the warp from devouring humanity. I have never seen him, but I have felt his hand in battle. Yoda's ears twitch. Seen him you have not, Yoda says. Yet serve you do. Faith, this is, or chain. Varro does not answer. Obi-Wan turns back to the hollow. We need a boarding team, he says, smaller than before. A hard strike at the heart of the lab ship. Take their data. Destroy the null device if we can do it safely. Anakin grins. That sounds like my kind of plan. Yularen nods. Intelligence reports a new commander aboard the lab ship, he says. Count Dooku himself was sighted inspecting it days ago. Of course he was, Anakin mutters. He never misses a chance to play with forbidden toys. Mace looks at Varro. Dooku is not like the others, he says. He is a Sith Lord. He fights with a blade and with words. He will try to turn you. He will twist your sense of duty against you. Be ready. Varro's lips tighten. I am no child to be seduced by a rogue psyker, he says. Obi-Wan sighs softly. None of us think we are, he says, until we are too far gone. Later, in the hangar, Varro checks his armor again. Tech crews have patched the worst cracks. They have also installed new rune wards around his Aquila, amplifying its psychic imprint. We tied it into your armor's power grid, a tech explains. Should help it resist field disruption. Maybe. Varro nods. Your machine priests are crude, he thinks, but not without skill. He touches the Aquila. Hold, he whispers. Do not let them snuff you out like a candle. Anakin walks up, helmet under his arm, R2 rolling behind him. You ready to go get your faith punched again? He asks. Varro looks down at him. If he can turn off my link to the warp, what happens to you? Varro asks. If he builds a field that cuts you off from the Force? Anakin's smile fades. I don't know, he says. I've never felt the Force fully go. Quiet. Even in the worst places, it's still there. Twisted, dark, but there. Then we may both learn something today, Varro says. They board a small assault shuttle this time. No rows of extra clones. Just Rex, a hand-picked squad of veterans, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Varro. This is not a siege. It is a knife thrust. In space near the anomaly, the battle is oddly restrained. Republic and Separatist ships keep distance from the rift, trading long-range fire. Starfighters dart between them, but there is no push for a killing blow. Both sides fear a stray torpedo into the wrong part of the glowing wound. On the far side, a dark shape hangs near the lab ship. A Mandalorian cruiser, weapons cold but eyes sharp. Bo-Katan watches from its bridge, helmet under her arm, as the assault shuttle leaves the Resolute. There he is, she says softly. Her sensors show one massive life form on board, far denser than any human. She watches the shuttle's transponder, tagging it in her mind. Weapons? Asks her second. Hold, Bo-Katan says. We're not here to help the Jedi. We're here to learn who else walks our sky. The assault shuttle dives for the lab ship. Flak guns spit at it, but Anakin's fighter group covers the approach, blasting the nearest cannons. The shuttle slams onto a docking arm with a heavy thud. Boarding clamps bite. The hatch blows open. Inside, the lab ship smells of ozone, oil, and something worse. Old blood and burnt air from too many dark experiments. Varro steps out first, bolter up. The corridors are narrow for him, but he forces himself through. Pale blue lights flicker. Droids stand ready. B1s, B2s, and silver Magna Guards block the way, electrostaffs humming. Their leader, a tactical droid with one glowing eye, clicks. Intruders detected, it says. Execute containment protocol. Blaster fire fills the hall. Clones fire from behind Varro's broad back. Anakin and Ahsoka leap over his shoulders, sabers spinning, deflecting shots and cutting droids down. Obi-Wan moves more carefully, watching for the real threat. Varro is a battering ram. He pushes down the corridor, shrugging off hits, bolter barking in short bursts. He targets Magna Guards first, blowing them apart before they can close. When a B2 gets too near, he grabs it by the head and crushes it, tossing the body aside. They fight their way toward the core. Along the way, they see rooms full of strange equipment. One chamber holds fragments of the Invictus's engine, wired into banks of separatist tech. Blue sparks dance between them and the walls, humming at that same ugly frequency. Another room contains cages, half-whole droids, their circuits exposed. The other half holds small floating shards of frozen light that make the air warp. Warp residue, Varro says, torn from the breach. They are trying to tame it. Ahsoka shivers. It feels wrong, she says. Like the Force, but poisoned. Don't touch, Anakin warns. We have enough problems. At last, they reach a large, circular chamber. In the center stands the null cage. It is bigger than before, built into the floor and ceiling. Metal struts curve around an empty space, roughly the size of a shuttle. Crystals glow along its edges, pulsing in time with the anomaly outside. Standing beside it is Count Dooku. Tall, elegant, grey hair and beard neat, cape draped over one shoulder. His red lightsaber hilt hangs at his belt. He looks up as they enter, eyes cool. Skywalker, he says. Kenobi, and our guest. His gaze lingers on Varro. Anakin's saber snaps to life with a hiss. Dooku, he growls. Obi-Wan's blade follows, blue and steady. Varro raises his bolter. Count Dooku of Sereno, Obi-Wan says. Or should I say, Darth Tyrannus. Dooku smiles slightly. Titles are like masks, he says. We wear the one that fits the moment. Behind him, droids line the walls, weapons ready. 2 Magna Guards step forward, electrostaffs crackling. Dooku extends a hand toward the null cage. You are walking into a place without gods, he says to Varro. Observe. He gestures to a droid at a control panel. The null field activates. There is no flash, no roar, just sudden, crushing silence. Varro's Aquila goes cold on his chest. The hum of the warp in the back of his mind dies. He feels heavier, as if gravity has doubled. Anakin gasps. The Force, he starts. It is still there, Obi-Wan says through gritted teeth, but distant, thin. Ahsoka staggers. I can barely feel anything, she says, panic in her voice. Varro tries to lift his bolter. It feels like lifting a tank. Servos whine, struggling. Warning runes flare, power output dropping. Machine spirits distressed. Dooku ignites his red blade. You see, he says, stepping closer. Your powers, your faith, your tricks, they are context. Take away the field that feeds them, and you are just men with toys. He moves like water. In 2 steps, he is upon them. His saber flashes, knocking Anakin's blade aside, then Obi-Wan's. Ahsoka barely brings hers up in time to block a follow-up strike. Varro lurches forward. He swings his bolter like a club, the weight enormous in this field. Dooku sidesteps gracefully, blade drawing a burning line across Varro's pauldron. The armor holds, but only just. You rely on your machines, Dooku says. You talk of duty, of an emperor who lives on a throne of pain. But when someone like me can flip a switch and cut you off from that, what are you? Varro growls. I am a space marine, he says, forcing his limbs to move. I am duty made flesh. He throws the bolter. It leaves his hand slower than it would outside the null field, but still fast enough to surprise. Dooku tilts his head, blade flicking up to slice it aside. The weapon spins away, crashing into a wall. Varro draws his combat knife. It is a monomolecular blade, blessed in 300 rites. Even in the null field, steel is still steel. He charges. Dooku meets him, saber against knife. Each clash sends sparks flying. Varro's movements are slower now, but his sheer strength keeps Dooku from simply cutting through him. Dooku, in turn, uses finesse, letting the giant's weight carry him past, slicing at joints, testing armor. Around them, the clones try to fire. Their blaster bolts fizzle near the edges of the null field, energy drained. Ahsoka and Anakin fight droids at the perimeter, their sabers sluggish, jumps shorter. This field hates everything, Ahsoka gasps. It's like fighting underwater, Anakin says. Dooku drives Varro back toward the center. You are far from your Imperium, he says, voice almost gentle. They do not even know you live. Your Emperor will never hear your prayers. Why keep dying for a throne that has forgotten you? Varro's knife scrapes against the red blade, sparks showering. Because my vows do not depend on being seen, he pants. They depend on being true. Dooku's eyes narrow. You sound like a Jedi from long ago, he says, before we learned that vows can be chains. Tell me, Captain Varro, how many worlds has your Imperium burned in the name of survival? How many innocent souls did you consign to ash? Varro's mind flashes back. He sees Exterminatus orders again. Planets blasted from orbit. Cities turned to glass. Enough, he growls. Exactly, Dooku says. Enough. Too many. And yet you still cling to this Emperor as if he is worthy. What if he is not? What if he is simply another tyrant, like our Chancellor, like the Jedi Council, using holy words to hide compromise? The knife dips for a heartbeat. Dooku strikes. His blade arcs down, slamming into the gap between Varro's chest plate and gorget. It cuts deep, searing through ceramite, biting into flesh. Varro roars. Pain explodes across his chest. One of his heart spasms. Blood, thick and bright, sprays inside his armor. He drops to one knee. The null field presses down harder, making the air thick as mud. His Aquila hangs cold, useless. For the first time since he took the gene seed, Varro feels small. Dooku leans close, saber at Varro's throat. "You could save more lives with me," he says softly. "Help me end this pointless clone war. We could close this rift, not to protect weak republics and decaying empires, but to build a new order, a true order. Your warriors, my knowledge. 2 galaxies, 1 will." His eyes gleam. "You talk of duty," Dooku goes on. "Your duty is to humanity, is it not? Not to symbols, not to thrones. Help me cut away the rot. Help me end their suffering." On the edge of the chamber, Anakin hears this between swings. His breath catches. The words hit him too. Chancellor, Council, Chains. Obi-Wan sees his pupil freeze for a heartbeat and feels fear. In the center, Varro shakes. The field is so heavy. His blood runs hot and thick inside his armor. Dooku's words worm into old doubts. He has seen the Imperium at its worst. Worlds burned, innocents sacrificed, inquisitors who kill whole cities because one man whispers a heresy. Maybe he is right, a small tired part of him thinks. Maybe we are not worthy of the Emperor. Maybe someone else should hold the sword. Another voice stirs under that thought. It is not loud. It is not a shout. It is the simple memory of a little girl in a burning warehouse, whispering, "Thank you." It is his brothers laughing in a fortress mess hall, tired and scarred, but still alive. It is the creed of the Ultramarines, spoken by 100 captains before him. Courage and honor. Not victory at any price, not order at any cost. Courage and honor. Varro lifts his eyes to Dooku's. "My duty is to mankind," he says quietly. "All of it. Yours, mine, theirs." He nods toward the clones, the Jedi, the unseen billions beyond. And duty without honor is just cruelty with better aim. He surges up. The knife flashes. Varro turns Dooku's blade aside with a brutal twist, then rams his knife into Dooku's shoulder. The Sith Lord cries out, surprised, cloak tearing. At that exact moment, something moves in the silence. Varro's Aquila, dead and cold seconds ago, flares. A tiny spark of golden light flickers at its center, pushing back against the null tone. For a heartbeat, the field wavers. The pressure lessens. Far away on Terra, a man on a broken throne opens his eyes a fraction. He sees a warrior kneeling before a blade on a ship in a foreign sky. He sees a new galaxy, full of strange powers and small lights. He does not speak, but his will brushes Varro's mind. Stand. In the Jedi temple, Yoda, deep in meditation, feels it too. A light older than the Jedi, heavy and tired, reaching through the same wound the Sith have been probing. He cannot see its shape, only its weight. He murmurs. Not dark, not light. Something else. The null field flickers. For a heartbeat, the force rushes back into the chamber like a flood. Anakin feels it hit him. He acts without thinking. He lunges, saber high, driving at Dooku with a burst of speed that makes the air crack. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka follow, pressed by the same sudden surge. Dooku staggers back, wounded shoulder smoking where Varro's knife cut. He throws out a hand, lightning arcing. The bolts hit Varro, now half standing. They burn across his armor, seeking flesh, but the golden glow around his Aquila flares brighter, taking some of the charge. The rest slams into him. He screams. Lightning snakes through his nerves, overloading both hearts, frying implants. Pain erases the world. Codex note: a wound that strikes both flesh and spirit can leave scars in places no medici can reach, and if not healed, those scars can become doors for darker things. The null field stabilizes again as the cage adjusts. The force dims once more, the warp recedes, but the brief gap was enough. Anakin's blade comes down. Dooku barely brings his red saber up in time to block. The impact jars his wounded arm. "Magna Guards," he snaps. The silver droids leap between him and the Jedi, staves spinning. Dooku retreats toward a side exit, cape fluttering. Rex and his clones lay down what fire they can. Even weakened, their blaster bolts still burn circuits. Ahsoka dances between Magna Guard swings, slicing a staff in half. "After him," Anakin yells. "No," Obi-Wan shouts back. "We have what we came for." He glances at Varro. The Space Marine lies on one knee, smoke rising from his armor. The chest wound still bleeds inside the cracked plate. His breathing is ragged but steady. The null cage hums, still locked to the anomaly. At its base, consoles flash red. The scientist droids abandoned them in the chaos, leaving data scrolling. Ahsoka glances at one screen. "They're trying to tune the field to planets," she says, horror in her voice. "Not just ships, whole worlds." Obi-Wan curses softly. He slaps a small device onto the main console. "R2, download all you can," he says into his comlink. "Then corrupt the rest. I don't care how. Make their calculations useless." R2's warble answers over the channel, then ports light up on the console. Anakin watches Dooku disappear into the shadows. His fingers twitch. He wants to chase. He wants to end this. He wants to make Dooku pay for every clone dead in the mud. "Skywalker," Obi-Wan says, "help Varro." The command snaps like a leash. Anakin grits his teeth, then turns. He and Rex reach Varro's side. The Space Marine's eyes are open but unfocused. His Aquila has gone dim again, but not fully dark. "Can you move?" Rex asks. "If I can speak," Varro rasps. "I can move." They haul him up. His weight nearly pulls them both down, but his legs find their own strength. Step by step, they fall back toward the shuttle. Behind them, R2 finishes his work and overloads the console. Sparks shower the cage. The null field wobbles, then snaps off. For a second, the lab ship's link to the anomaly flares too bright. The rift outside flickers, its edges rippling. On the Resolute, alarms sound. "Energy spike at the anomaly," a tech shouts. "Reading, temporal shear, spatial inversion." "Plain basic, please," Yularen says. "It's touching other times," the tech says. "Not just places. I'm seeing echoes from past and future both." In the space near the rift, ghost images appear. For a heartbeat, a massive shadowed ship with a broken planet on its mast glides into view. Darth Nihilus, hollow eyes burning, stands on its bridge. He turns as if he hears something, then fades. In another flicker, a young man with sandy hair and a blue lightsaber stands on the prow of a different ship, staring into the rift. Luke Skywalker's face is confused and determined. He reaches out a hand, and then he too is gone. For a final instant, a masked figure in black with a crossguard saber stands amid snow, red blade humming. Kylo Ren looks at the rift with pain in his eyes. Then the image shatters. On the Mandalorian cruiser, Bo-Katan and her crew see all this. "What was that?" a second whispers. "Time," Bo-Katan says, voice hushed. "Or madness. Maybe both." On the lab ship, the brief time stutter shock systems. Bulkheads buckle. Droids fall frozen, then reboot. The null cage explodes in a shower of sparks. "Go," Obi-Wan yells. They race down the corridor. Behind them, fire blooms as overloaded reactors start to chain react. Unlike the Invictus, this ship is not built to handle warp stress. It begins to come apart at the seams. The assault shuttle rips free from the docking arm as explosions chase it. It dives for the Resolute, shields flaring. Behind it, the lab ship tears open, chunks flying, some sucked toward the anomaly, others flung into space. On Bo-Katan's bridge, someone whistles. "That was close," a pilot says. "We've learned enough," Bo-Katan says. "We go home. Mandalore must know the sky itself is breaking." The shuttle lands hard in the Venator's hangar. Medics and droids rush forward. Clones carry Varro down the ramp, his armor scorched and cracked, blood dripping from under his plate. In the Medicae bay, they cut his chest armor open. Beneath, they find blackened flesh, one heart damaged, the other overclocked. His secondary lung has shut down to save power for the rest of his organs. A med droid prepares a surgical laser. "No cutting," Varro growls, trying to sit up. Anakin pushes him gently but firmly back down. "Listen to the nice droid for once," he says. "You're no good to anyone dead." Varro glares, then relents. The droids work, guided by a human Medicae who listens as Varro mutters the names of his strange organs, pointing to where they can cut and where they must not. Hours later, he lies in a regeneration tank. Thick fluid supports his weight, feeding his body with nutrients and healing agents. Tubes run into his veins. Even asleep, his hands twitch, as if grabbing an invisible bolter. Outside, Anakin stands with Obi-Wan, Rex, and Mace. "So," Mace says, eyes on the tank, "we stopped them from perfecting their null weapon. We got their data. We damaged Dooku, but we did not destroy the lab ship before it could shake the rift." Obi-Wan nods. "And now the anomaly doesn't only touch space," he says. "It brushes time. We saw things, faces we don't know yet, faces from long ago." Rex rubs his helmet. "I don't like the idea of time breaking," he says. "Space is bad enough." Anakin stares at Varro. "Dooku almost got him," he says quietly. "Not just his body, his head. I could feel it. He was thinking about it, about joining." Mace's gaze sharpens. "Did you sense any dark side in him?" he asks. Anakin hesitates. "A little," he says, "but not like ours. More like despair. Like a man who's seen too many bad choices and doesn't trust anyone to make a good one anymore." Obi-Wan nods sadly. "He has fought a different war for a very long time," he says. "He is used to being the knife that cuts away the rot, but now he's asking if there is any clean flesh left anywhere." Up to now, Varro has faced Dooku in a null field that stripped away his connection to the warp, suffered a deep wound in body and soul, and heard a temptation that struck at his core duty, forcing him to cling to courage and honor, even as the rift's instability begins to drag in echoes from other eras of Star Wars. In the Jedi Council chamber, the debate reaches a new pitch. Hollows of the lab ship's ruins and the brief time echoes spin in the air. Masters sit in their chairs, robes gathered, faces grave. So now this tear not only connects galaxies, Ki-Adi-Mundi says, it frays time itself. If it grows worse, we could face enemies from our past and our future at the same time. Or allies, Plo Koon says. Do not forget that. The force of destiny works in both directions. Yoda taps his cane. Big this has become, he says. Too big for blasters and blades alone. Spiritual this war is, as much as physical. Mace nods. Dooku targeted the outsider's faith, he says. He is not just trying to kill a soldier. He is trying to prove that all creeds are lies. If he can make the Space Marine fall, he will use that to break others. Shakti looks thoughtful. The clones watch Varro, she says. They see his strength, his wounds, and his choices. Some like his clear code. Others fear his ruthlessness. If he cracks, so will they. Yoda turns to the hollow of the anomaly. Source, we do not understand, he says. Warp, he calls it. Emperor, he serves. If stop this we wish, perhaps speak with this Emperor, we must. There is a murmur. Master Yoda, we cannot simply stroll into another galaxy's throne room, Mace says. We barely survived sending one man through. Not stroll, Yoda says. Pilgrimage. He looks at Varro's empty chair. Bridge he is, Yoda says. Between us and them, between Force and Warp. To the source of his power, he must go, with us. Or at least, with one of us. Mace frowns. You propose we send Jedi through the rift? He asks. More dangerous to stay, it may be, Yoda says. If ignorance we keep. Already, dark side and warp touch. A choice we must make. Learn or be used. Back on the Resolute, Varro dreams again. This time he stands on a bridge of light between two oceans. On one side the warp churns, colours screaming, spirits howling. On the other the Force flows, quieter but deep, full of countless lives. In the middle he stands alone. Behind him he hears voices. His chapter master, stern and steady. His brothers laughing. The little girl again, whispering thank you. Ahead he hears other voices. Anakin arguing with Obi-Wan. Yoda's slow speech. Dooku's cold words about thrones and chains. Above it all, a weight presses. Not crushing, but vast, like a hand on his shoulder. He turns and sees a golden throne in the distance, shrouded in light. He cannot see the figure fully. Only a human shape bound in wires, eyes closed, face gaunt. Emperor, he whispers. The figure opens its eyes the smallest amount. They burn like small suns. A voice that is not a voice reaches him. Your duty has expanded, it says. Not in words, but in meaning. You are no longer only my sword in one galaxy. You are my witness in two. Varro tries to kneel, but the bridge shakes. The light around him flickers, showing glimpses of Coruscant, Mandalore, and worlds he does not know. He sees Jedi temples and hive cities, clone barracks and underhive slums. How? He asks. I am only one man. One man can be enough, the meaning comes, if he remembers why he fights. You will not allow one throne or one code to own all truth. You will stand between empires. You will protect the weak from both. The weight lifts a little. Go to me, the sense says. Bring others. Let them see. Then choose your path. Varro wakes with a start. The tank fluid still holds him, but medici droids have pulled him near the surface. Tubes removed. Anakin sits nearby, nodding off in a chair. Varro bangs a fist on the glass. Anakin jolts awake. Always so polite, he mutters, hitting the release. The tank drains. Varro steps out, still taller than everyone, scars fresh on his chest. You should not be up, a med droid says. You should not talk, Varro replies, reaching for a towel. Anakin watches him. You dreamed again, Anakin says. Varro dries his face. Yes, he says. This time not of fear, of the Emperor. Anakin shifts. What did he say? He asks. Varro looks at him. That my duty is bigger now than my Imperium, he says, and that I must bring others to stand before him, to see if their light and his can touch without burning the galaxy. Later, in a secure holocall, Varro faces the Jedi Council. He stands bare-chested, scars still raw, Aquila around his neck. Behind him, the anomaly's glow fills a viewport. I must return to Terra, he says simply, to the Golden Throne, to the Emperor himself. Mace frowns. That is impossible, he says. The rift is not a road you can simply walk. Perhaps not yet, Varro says. But it is a bridge. We have already crossed once. We can cross again, not by throwing whole fleets, by carving a smaller path. Yoda leans forward. And why must you? He asks. Because this war is no longer just about your republic and my imperium, Varro says. Dooku is using the rift to question the meaning of every rule we hold. He wants to prove that all codes are weak. To answer him, we must know which parts of our own codes are worth keeping. Shakti tilts her head. You want us to put our beliefs on trial before your emperor? She asks. Varro shakes his head. No, he says. I want to stand before a being who has carried the burden of a whole species for 10,000 years and ask what he thinks of another galaxy asking for help. And I want you to see him, so you understand what I am when I say duty. Plo Koon's eyes soften behind his mask. And perhaps, he says, so your emperor sees that your duty is no longer only to him. Varro says nothing, but does not deny it. Yoda taps his cane. Dangerous this is, he says, but also honest. Face the source you wish. Respect. That deserves. He looks around the council. Volunteers there must be, he says, to walk this path with him. Obi-Wan speaks first. I'll go, he says. Anakin's head snaps up. Me too, Anakin says at once. Mace opens his mouth, but Yoda holds up a hand. Choose from the heart we must, Yoda says. Skywalker's path tangled it is. But truth he needs. Perhaps there he will find some. Mace sighs. Very well, he says, but you will not go alone. A council representative should accompany you, someone to weigh what we see. He looks at Plo Koon. Master Plo, he asks. Plo nods. I will go, he says. I have walked many worlds and many wars. I can listen without shouting. Rex clears his throat over the local comm. With all respect, generals, he says, you'll need soldiers too. If this Terra place is anything like Varro's stories, I'd rather not show up without backup. Varro glances at him. You would leave your war to walk into mine, he asks. Rex shrugs. War is war, he says. If this helps end it faster, I'm in. And somebody has to make sure you don't scare their civilians too much. Anakin laughs. Deal, he says. Obi-Wan smiles despite himself. So, he says, a space marine, 2 Jedi, 1 council master, and a squad of clones walk into another galaxy. I'm sure nothing could go wrong. Up to now, the duel with Dooku has left Varro deeply wounded but unbroken, drawn a direct line between his faith and the Jedi's force, and led both him and the Council to the same hard conclusion. To understand and contain the rift, they must cross it on purpose and stand before the Emperor of mankind himself, risking their own codes and souls in the process. The ship that will cross between galaxies rests in the shadow of the anomaly. It is not a Venator or a strike cruiser. It is something new, welded together from Republic steel and Imperial relics, with a shard of the Invictus's engine beating at its heart. Jedi call it a wayfinder, a vessel that can ride both hyperspace and warp. The tech priests who helped build it called it an abomination, then blessed it anyway. Its name is Concord. On the hangar deck, the small group gathers. Obi-Wan checks the straps on a crate of emergency supplies. Anakin paces like a caged animal, R2 humming behind him. Plo Koon stands still, hands folded, watching everything. Rex and a squad of clones run last checks on their gear. Varro walks slowly up the ramp. His armor is patched and newly inscribed. Fresh purity seals hang over the repaired chest plate, still smelling of incense. The scar from Dooku's blade aches under the ceramite, but he does not limp. Yoda waits by the base of the ramp. Last chance to stay, the small master says, looking up at the giant. Varro shakes his head. My emperor has called, he says, and your force has agreed. There is no stay now. Yoda's ears twitch. Afraid, are you? He asks. Always, Varro answers, of failing the ones who trust me. That is why I go. Up to now, the rift has linked two wars and nearly broken Varro's faith, but it has also given him a mandate. Travel back to Terra with Jedi and clones, stand before the Emperor of mankind, and find a new code that can hold two galaxies at once. Anakin steps up beside Varro. Ready, Master Yoda, he says. Yoda nods to him. Remember, Skywalker, he says. Learn, you must, not only fight. Anakin almost smiles. I'll try, he says. Yoda's eyes narrow. No, he replies. Do or do not. There is no try. They board the Concorde. Inside, the ship is narrow and crowded. Chapel alcoves line one wall, full of candles and crude icons of the Emperor. On the other side, Medicae bays wait, beds ready for bodies from two very different wars. Cables and conduits snake along the ceiling, humming with a mix of warp and hyperspace power. In the central chamber, a hollow of the anomaly spins slowly. Plo Koon stands beside it. We launch in 10 minutes, he says. The Republic task force will escort us to the very edge, then hold position. After that, we are alone. Rex nods. If anything happens, we'll get you back, he says. Varro looks at him. Or you will carry word of what killed us, Varro says. Rex shrugs. Either way, we do our job, he replies. The Concorde lifts from the hangar. Through a viewport, Coruscant shrinks below, a ball of lights and clouds. The anomaly grows ahead, a wound that now seems almost calm. Republic ships flanking them shine blue on sensors. In the Medicae bay, Varro sits while a medic checks his heart rhythms. Two of his gene-forged hearts beat in complex patterns. One is still scarred from Dooku's lightning. The med-droid runs scans and clicks its tongue. You are not fully recovered, it says. I am recovered enough, Varro answers. Obi-Wan leans against the doorway. You know, he says, most people would take an excuse to stay in bed. I am not most people, Varro says. That may be the first thing we agree on today, Obi-Wan replies. He steps inside. Varro, he says, when we reach your Emperor, what do you expect him to say? Varro thinks. He will not waste words, he says. He will weigh you. He will weigh me. He will measure if this new duty I claim is worth the risk to his Imperium. And if he decides no? Obi-Wan asks softly. Varro's eyes harden. Then I will have to decide if his will still defines my own, he says. Obi-Wan studies him. That sounds very close to doubt, he says. Duty without doubt becomes blind, Varro replies. And blind duty burns worlds it should have saved. In the small chapel, candles flicker. Varro kneels before a simple iron aquila, bolted to the wall. Rex enters quietly, helmet under his arm. Didn't peg you for the praying type, sir, Rex says. Varro snorts. I do not beg the Emperor for favors, he says. I remind myself that I kneel to someone higher than my own pride. Rex comes closer. Clones don't really have gods, Rex says. We have commanders, brothers, habits. And what happens when your commanders fail you? Varro asks. Rex looks away. Then we lean on each other, he says. Or we break. Varro nods. Then you have gods, he says quietly. You just do not call them that. In another corner, Anakin and Plo Koon sit across from each other. You worry, Plo says gently. Anakin laughs without humor. When do I not, he says. About this journey, Plo clarifies. About meeting a being who has been a leader, a warrior, and a symbol for 10,000 years. Anakin stares at his hands. I'm afraid I'll understand him, he says. Plo tilts his head. How so? I'm tired, Master, Anakin says. Tired of this war. Tired of watching friends die while the Council debates. If this Emperor says, enough, I will do whatever it takes to end the pain. Part of me will want to follow him. Plo's voice stays calm. And the other part? He asks. The part that still wants to be a Jedi, Anakin says. Sometimes I can't tell which part is winning. Plo nods slowly. Dogma without heart is brittle, he says. Heart without any rule is wild. That is your struggle. It is also his. He nods toward Varro in the chapel. Talk to each other, Plo says. You might both learn what you're afraid to admit. The Concord reaches the edge of the anomaly. Outside, Republic ships peel away, turning to form a watchful ring. Yularen's voice crackles over the comm. Concord, this is the Resolute, he says. We will hold position and monitor your signal. If anything goes wrong, we will do something heroic, I'm sure. Anakin smiles a little. Thanks, Admiral, he replies. See you on the other side. The anomaly fills the forward views. It is a twisting tunnel of red and violet light now, more like a throat than a wound. Energy readings spike. In the engine room, tech priests and clone engineers chant and call out numbers. Warp coil at full, one says. Hyperdrive engaged, another answers. Hybrid field stable, holding. Varro takes a seat and straps in, helmet locked. Everyone ready, Anakin calls over the internal comm. Ready, Obi-Wan says. Ready, Plo says. Born ready, Rex adds. Varro's voice rumbles last. For Terra, he says, and for those who cannot fight for themselves. The Concord plunges into the rift. The stars vanish. Light twists into impossible shapes outside. Inside, gravity flexes and bends. For a moment, everyone feels weightless. Anakin reaches out with the Force. It feels strange here. Not gone, like in the null field, and not normal. It stretches, thin and tight, like a rope pulled between two anchors. Varro feels the warp press against the hull. Its whispers are louder here, but less sharp than usual. There is another presence in the stream now, the echo of the Force flowing alongside. Two currents, rubbing against each other. The ship shudders. We're inside the bridge between, the pilot reports. All systems nominal, for now. They are not alone for long. Shapes move in the light outside. At first they look like echoes of other ships, ghost images sliding past, a Venator drifting, a black Baroque battleship with skulls for prows, a Mandalorian cruiser, guns silent. Then one shape does not slide past. It keeps pace. Something slams against the Concorde's flank. Alarms scream. Intrusion, a tech shouts. Boarding spike straight through the hull. It came out of the light itself. Rex curses. Boarding party, he yells. All hands repel. The spike punches through a corridor wall. It is a jagged bolt of black metal covered in writhing runes that hurt the eyes. At its tip, a hatch blows open. Figures step out. They are huge, in armor as massive as Varro's, but twisted. Spikes and chains hang from their pauldrons. The 8-pointed star of chaos burns on their chests. At their head walks a space marine in black and crimson. His helmet is horned. His gauntlets drip slow, dark fire. Across his chest, the Ultramarines' Omega symbol is scorched out and replaced with a jagged mark. Varro feels his heart clench. He knows that armor pattern. He knows the way the man moves. Galerius, he whispers. The traitor laughs. Yes, brother, he says. Vox amplifying the sound. Once of the second company, once your student, now your future. Rex looks from one giant to the other. You know him, he asks. He died on Macragge, Varro says. Or I thought he did. We lost him in the tunnels. We never found a body. Galerius spreads his arms. The warp found me, he says. It showed me the truth. Our Imperium is not a shield. It is a knife. We have always been the butchers. I simply stopped pretending. Behind him, his warband fans out. Their armor shows marks of different gods, skulls, flies, flames, eyes, but all carry the same mocking confidence. In the air around them, the warp and the dark side curl together, thick and hot. Mirror Foe B has arrived. He is Varro. If Varro's fear of failure had turned into pure ruthlessness, if duty had become nothing but an excuse to kill. Codex note. The most dangerous enemy is often not the stranger at the gate, but the self you might become if you let your harshest logic run free without mercy or doubt. How are they here? Obi-Wan breathes. Plo's voice is calm but strained. The rift touches time and space now, he says. We may be seeing a path not yet taken, or a future we prevent, or both. Galerius points his chain axe at Varro. They showed me what you do in that other galaxy, he says. How you hesitate. How you talk about honor while the warp chews at its edges. Pathetic. Varro raises his bolter. You traded your soul for power, he says. You wear the marks of the enemy. You are dead to me. Dead, Galerius laughs. No, brother. I am free. I burn worlds without guilt. I erase whole peoples so others can live. I do what you have always wanted to do, but were too weak to admit. Blaster fire erupts. Rex's men open up, shots slamming into Chaos armor. Some hit weak points, burning, but many are turned aside by warped metal and shimmering fields. The Chaos Marines fire back with bolters and strange guns that spit mutating flame. Anakin and Ahsoka charge. Their sabers carve glowing arcs, slicing bolts aside, cutting into warped ceramite. The force here feels wild, full of eddies, but they ride it. Varro meets Galerius in the middle of the corridor. Bolter against axe. Shield of faith against fire of chaos. Galerius swings, his chain axe howling. Varro blocks with his armored forearm, sparks flying as teeth bite into ceramite. He counters with a punch that would shatter a tank plate. Galerius takes it and grins. Stronger than you remember, he says. They have shown me more than warp storms here. They showed me your new friends, their flaws, their endings. He leans close, voice dropping. I saw the clones turn their guns on the Jedi, he whispers. I saw Skywalker in black armor choking worlds. I saw your Emperor sitting on his throne while whole galaxies burn and he does nothing. Varro growls, driving him back. You saw lies, he says. I saw possible truths, Galerius answers. The warp loves truth that hurts. You know that. Why pretend? Somewhere behind them, a clone screams. Warp fire has turned his arm into glass. Ahsoka pulls him back, shouting for medics. Plo Koon raises his hand. He reaches into the strange blend of force and warp and shapes it not into lightning or fire, but into a simple wall. A barrier of clear will between clones and chaos. It holds, but it costs him. His breathing becomes ragged. He feels whispers at the edge of his mind, offering power for a price. No, Plo murmurs. I am not yours. Anakin duels a Chaos Marine with a serrated sword. The man's armor shimmers with faces pressing out from inside, mouths open in silent screams. Every clash of blades sends visions into Anakin's head. Burning temples, dead younglings, a mask breathing. He grits his teeth. Not me, he snarls. Not my path. Galerius presses Varro harder. You think you can carry 2 galaxies on your shoulders and stay clean, he taunts. You will have to choose. Which world do you burn to save the other? Why wait? Burn one now, End the war. Be the monster they need. Varro's muscles shake. Each hit from Galerius's axe chips his armor further. Each taunt scrapes at old scars. He remembers Dooku's words. He remembers Mace's anger. He remembers Yoda's warning. And he remembers the Emperor's weight on his shoulder. I do not have to be you, Varro says, voice low. I do not have to be perfect. I only have to be better than what the darkness wants. He faints, then drives his shoulder into Galerius's chest, slamming him into a wall. Anakin feels a surge in the current around them. The Force and the warp both twist. The light outside the hull flares gold and white. Everyone freezes for a heartbeat. In that instant, a presence fills the corridor. It is not a physical figure. It is a pressure, a light, a single word hammered into every mind. Enough. The word is not basic. It is not high Gothic. It is meaning. The Emperor's will, riding the bridge, slams into the boarding spike. Galerius staggers. For the first time, fear flickers across his features. You feel him now, Varro says. That is the weight you threw away. Galerius snarls. He is chained to a throne, he spits. He cannot reach me. The bulkheads groan. Golden cracks appear in the black metal of the boarding spike. Beyond them, the warp light brightens. In the same moment, Jedi feels something else. A calm, deep note in the Force. Not loud, not flashy. It feels like an endless field of stars saying the same thing. Hold. Yoda, far away on Coruscant, sits in meditation. His eyes are wet. Feel it, I do, he whispers. Other will, old will, not friend, not foe, but says the same word it does, enough. The boarding spike begins to tear free. Galerius roars in rage. This is not over, brother, he shouts. You will choose. You will become me, or you will die watching others do it for you. Varro swings one last time. His punch caves in part of Galerius's helm. Warp fire gushes from the cracks. Then the spike rips away, sucked back into the light outside. The corridor seals behind it with a screech of tortured metal. The Concorde lurches. Stability compromised, the pilot cries. We have to push through now. If we stay, the rift will eat us. Obi-Wan steadies himself. You heard him, he calls. Everyone brace. Get to stations. In their minds, one phrase echoes, from both the Emperor's distant throne and the calm core of the Force. Reach the throne. They hang between galaxies for one long moment. Then the Concorde bursts out of the bridge. Stars slam back into view. Not the stars of Coruscant sky. A different spread. A harsher light. Ahead, a yellow-white star shines. Around it, fortified stations glitter like teeth. Massive void ships patrol, hulls black and gold, bristling with guns. The Sol system. Emperor's light, Varro whispers. We made it. Sensors scream with new contacts. Multiple capital ships, a tech says. Reading. Imperial Navy hull codes. Identifying. Retribution-class battleship. Name. Sword of Terra. Dozens of escort cruisers. Hundreds of smaller craft. A harsh voice crackles over Vox. Unidentified vessel. This is Lord Admiral Tiberius of Battlefleet Solar, it says. You are entering a restricted zone around Holy Terra. Transmit your ident codes or be reduced to atoms. Varro steps to a Vox panel. This is Brother-Captain Varro of the Ultramarines, he says. On board the hybrid vessel Concorde. I carry Jedi envoys from another galaxy and a mandate from the Emperor himself. Stand aside. There is a long pause. Vox officers on the Sword of Terra scramble. Gene print matches, one says. Ultramarines pattern. His armor's machine spirits answer our ping. Another officer stares at the readings from the Concorde. But what in the throne's name is that ship? He asks. It hums like a warp engine. and a heretic experiment had a child. The Lord Admiral listens. He is old, scarred, and very tired. Open a channel to Terra, he says. High priority. The Inquisition will want to hear of this. So will the Astronomicon. A choir of astropaths, eyes sewn shut, lifts their voices. They send a message without sound, an image of a strange ship, a space marine claiming to bear Jedi, and the feeling of the Emperor's own will pushing from the other side. On Terra, in the great halls of the Adeptus Administratum, bells toll. In the council chamber of the High Lords, robed figures pause in their endless arguments. In the shadowed oratories of the Inquisition, inquisitors look up. At the heart of it all, the golden throne burns. A thought passes, not in words, through webs of psychers, wards, and relics. Let them pass. Back on the Sword of Terra, the Lord Admiral hears a Vox Surf gasp. "My lord," the man stammers, "we have direct guidance from the palace." The Admiral straightens. "Concord," he says into the Vox, "your passage to Terra is granted. Any deviation from the approach vector will be treated as heresy and punished by immediate destruction. Understood?" "Understood," Varro says. As the Concord glides forward, the ships of Battlefleet Solar turn aside. They do not lower their guns, but they hold their fire. Rex stares out through a viewport. "Those ships," he says softly, "they're huge, bigger than anything in the Republic." Varro nods. "They guard the heart of the Imperium," he says. "Each one carries enough firepower to turn a continent into glass." Rex swallows. "Good to know," he mutters. "Bad to fight." Anakin presses a hand to the transparasteel. He reaches out. The Force here feels different. There is so much life, billions upon billions of souls in the system, but it all runs under a constant heavy pressure, like a planet under a thick layer of cloud. "Feels like everyone here is holding their breath," he says. Obi-Wan nods. "I feel it too," he says. "Order, fear, hope, all twisted together." The Concord slips past vast defense platforms. Each one is armed with guns the size of skyscrapers. Servitor crews stare with dead eyes as they track the little ship. Then, at last, Terra fills the view. It is not a green world. It is not blue. It is gold and grey. The entire planet is wrapped in hive cities and the vast sprawl of the Imperial Palace. The surface is a maze of towers, walls, cathedrals, and guns. "Is that all one building?" Ahsoka whispers. "Yes," Varro says. There is pride in his voice. "The Palace of Terra. It took a world and turned it into a throne room." As they descend, they see more details. Miles-high statues of armored warriors. Aquilas carved into mountainsides. Rivers replaced by traffic lanes filled with gunships and pilgrim craft. At the Lionsgate spaceport, a vast landing plateau opens. Lines of golden armored giants stand ready. They are taller than Varro, more regal, more still. Their armor is chased with intricate patterns, their helmets crested. Each carries a guardian spear. "The Adeptus Custodes," Varro says quietly, "the Emperor's own guard." Beside them stand ranks of women in plain armor, heads shaved. Their faces are calm, their eyes empty in a different way. Around them, the air feels wrong to the Jedi. Anakin staggers. "The Force," he gasps. "It's gone," Ahsoka whispers. "No, not gone. Smothered." Obi-Wan presses a hand to his chest. He feels a cold vacuum where the Force should be. It makes his skin crawl. Varro glances at them. "The Sisters of Silence," he says. "Blanks. Their very presence drains psychic power. We use them to fight psychers and demons." Plo Koon shivers. "This world is built as a fortress, not only of stone," he says, "but of mind." The Concord lands. The ramp lowers. Warm, thick air rolls in, smelling of incense, oil, and the sweat of countless pilgrims. Varro strides down first, helmet under his arm. He kneels, one knee to the ground, head bowed to the palace. Behind him, clones, Jedi and Plo follow, blinking in the harsh light. One of the custodes steps forward. His armor gleams like the sun. His face is stern, unlined, ageless. "Brother-Captain Varro," he says, "you stand on holy, Terra by the will of the Emperor. You will rise." Varro does. The custodian's eyes move to the Jedi. "Off-world psychers," he says, "bound by strange codes. You are watched." Obi-Wan bows. "We come in peace," he says, "and in humility. We wish to understand." The custodian's expression does not change. "Understanding is a rare luxury here," he says, "but you will see what you must." The Sisters of Silence move closer. Their null auras press in. Anakin feels sweat on his brow. He cannot feel the Force at all now. It is like losing a limb. He looks at Varro, suddenly understanding a little of what the null field had felt like to the Space Marine. "You live with this much of the warp noise all the time?" he asks. Varro nods. "Yes," he says. "And they," he nods at the sisters, "help cut some of it away." They begin the long walk into the palace. They pass through titanic gates carved with scenes of ancient battles. They walk under roofs held up by statues of Primarchs, each larger than a Star Destroyer's bridge. Every wall, every pillar, every inch of stone and metal carries script. Prayers, laws, histories. Crowds of pilgrims line some of the paths. Thin, tired people in simple robes, faces lifted, eyes full of awe. They whisper as the group passes. "Anastartes," someone breathes. "Jedi," another says, tasting the unfamiliar word. Rex feels their eyes on his armor. He grips his helmet a little tighter. "Feels like Camino," he mutters. "Everyone staring, everyone expecting you to be something." Ahsoka bumps his shoulder. "Maybe we should show them what that something can be," she says. At one point, they pass a high window. Outside, in the distance, Rex sees a Titan. It is a walking fortress, a god of war in metal. Each step shakes the ground. On its shoulder, banners wave. "That's bigger than an ATTE," Rex says. "God engines," Varro says. "The god machines of the Titan legions. When they march, worlds tremble." At last, they reach a set of doors taller than any they have seen yet. They are made of gold, bone, and black stone. Millions of skulls are carved into them, each one a tiny face in a sea of death. The custodian raises his hand. "Here you speak softly," he says, "if at all. Beyond this hall lies the golden throne and the master of mankind." He looks at the Jedi. "Your lightsabers will remain at your belts," he says. "If you draw them, you die before you take a step." Obi-Wan nods. "We understand," he says. Anakin swallows. "I hope we do," he mutters. The doors open. The golden throne chamber is beyond words. It is a cavern the size of a small city, filled with machinery, altars, and light. Cables thicker than walkers hang from the ceiling, feeding into a central structure. Psychers in chains chant in galleries, voices hoarse. At the center, on a throne of gold and bone, sits a figure. He is enormous, even from this distance. His body is bound in armor and tubes. His skin is pale, withered, stretched over ancient muscle. His eyes are closed. The air hums. The Force and the warp both bend around this spot. Obi-Wan feels it like standing in the eye of a storm. Anakin's breath catches. Plo Koon falls to one knee without thinking. Varro goes to both knees. He bows his head so low his forehead touches the floor. "Emperor," he whispers, Your servant returns bearing strangers and questions. No one speaks aloud after that. Words become pointless. The Emperor opens his eyes. They shine with golden light. There is no sound, but everyone hears him. Not with ears, with everything they are. Varro feels the weight of 10,000 years of war. He sees worlds burned in righteous fury and in cruel madness. He sees his own life, every battle, every doubt. You have done well, the sense says. You have carried my will far. Varro shakes. I failed many, he thinks, not daring to shape it into more. Brothers died, worlds died. Failure is inaction when there was a path, the Emperor's presence answers. Death in duty is not failure, but you stand now where your duty has grown beyond what I first gave you. Anakin feels the gaze turn to him. He wants to run. He wants to kneel. He wants to scream. The Emperor's will brushes his anger, his fear, his love. You are a blade that was never given a proper scabbard, the sense says. Your masters fear your strength and your heart. They bind you with rules but do not teach you to carry their weight. Anakin's thoughts blur. Are you evil? He thinks without meaning to. Are you just another tyrant? The Emperor shows him images, a galaxy without him, humanity shredded by warp storms, eaten by demons. Then a galaxy where he ruled directly, every soul on a leash, every thought watched. In both, something precious dies. I am not good, the sense says. I am necessary, but necessity without restraint becomes horror. That is why I did not march in every battle myself. That is why I crafted flawed tools, not perfect slaves. Obi-Wan feels the gaze then. It is like standing under a mountain. You fear compromise, the sense tells him. You cling to rules because they saved you once. But rules without change become cages. You must know when to bend so you do not break. Plo Koon feels gentle sorrow. You have always tried to see the best in others, the presence says. Do not let this place with its cruelty and grandeur blind you to why you fight. Even here, among skulls and guns, there are children who laugh. Rex feels seen. For the first time, someone looks at him not as a serial number, not as trooper, but as himself. You were made to die, the sense says, but you have chosen to live. That makes you greater than the one who ordered your birth. Rex blinks hard. He does not trust his voice. The Emperor shows them all, a series of visions. In one, the Imperium uses the rift to conquer the Star Wars galaxy. Jedi are hunted, turned into martyrs or puppets. Clones become one more wave of soldiers to feed into endless wars. Cities from Coruscant to Mandalore burn in holy fire. In another, the Jedi close the rift by sacrificing Terra. The Golden Throne goes dark. The Astronomicon dies. Without its light, human ships in the Imperium drift lost, eaten by warp storms. Trillions scream as demons pour into undefended worlds. In a third, both sides pull away. The rift remains unguarded. Dooku and Galerius, or their like, seize it, turning it into a wound no one controls. Demons and Sith walk freely between galaxies. There is no central will, no code, only chaos. None of these are victory, the Emperor's will says. They are different flavors of loss. Varro trembles. Then what is victory? He asks. Tell me. I need to know what I am aiming for. The answer comes slowly. Victory is not the death of all enemies, the sense says. There will always be new foes. Victory is when more children laugh than weep, when more worlds build than burn, when those with power accept limits they could break, but choose not to. That last part hits Varro like a hammer. Accept limits, he repeats in his mind. Choose not to burn when I could. He feels something shift inside him. Not a softening, a sharpening. His code changes shape, still steel, but edged not only with duty, but with a new word: mercy. Not mercy that lets monsters roam, but mercy that refuses to crush what does not need crushing. The Emperor's gaze meets his again. "You will be my envoy in both galaxies," the sense says, "but you will not be my puppet. You will carry this new mandate, protect the weak from both thrones, hold warriors to their own codes, close doors that let monsters feed." A light flares in Varro's Aquila. It fuses in that moment with something else. An echo of the Jedi symbol, half seen, half felt. On his chest, under the armor, the golden double-headed eagle now has a faint, simple line of light running down its center, like a blade. He feels it burn into his skin. He does not cry out. The Emperor's attention spreads again. "To you, Jedi," the sense says, "I give no orders. I am not your master, but you have seen what a galaxy of fear looks like. Do not become it in trying to stop it. Your war is long. You will be tempted to end it with one terrible act. Do not." Anakin swallows. He knows, without knowing how, that this warning is for him most of all. Obi-Wan bows his head. Plo Koon closes his eyes. In the silence that follows, the golden throne hums. The Emperor's eyes close again, slowly. His presence does not vanish, but it recedes, like a tide going out. The hall feels suddenly very large and very small at the same time. They stand there for a long moment, breathing. Then the custodian who led them in steps forward. "You have been weighed and not found wanting," he says simply. "Your path now returns you to the wound in the sky. The throne has spoken." He turns to Varro. "Brother-Captain, you carry more than your chapter now," he says. "See that you do not shame the throne." Varro straightens. "I will not," he says. Later, in a small side chamber, they gather around a plain metal table. The roar of the palace is dim here. They speak in low voices. "What now?" Rex asks. "Now," Obi-Wan says, "we go back. We face Dooku, Sidious, whoever is truly behind him. We close the rift, but not by burning a galaxy." Anakin leans back. His eyes are far away. He said, "Victory is choosing not to use all the power you could," he says. "Can we do that? When people keep dying?" Varro looks at him. "We can try," he says. "That is all any of us can do. But now, when I look at a hard choice, I will ask one more question." "What?" Ahsoka asks. "Am I doing this because it is needed?" Varro says slowly. "Or because it is easy? Burning is easy. Building is hard." Power scaling interlude. In-universe. Later, in a sealed report to his chapter and to the few on Terra who will read it, Varro sets down the new limits of his mandate. He writes that he may call on the Emperor's will across the rift, but each such act strains both the Golden Throne and the anomaly. It cannot be done lightly or often. He notes that in the Star Wars galaxy, he is forbidden to use exterminatus or to found inquisitorial cults. He must work within Jedi and Republic structures where possible. He explains that the Emperor has bound his armor and Aquila to resonate with both warp and force, making him a bridge, but that this also makes him a target for any weapon that can cut either. Finally, he adds that his greatest power is not a gun or a prayer, but the authority to say no when either galaxy demands a price that would break the standard set in the throne room. Their time on Terra is short. The palace does not like to host strangers. Already, inquisitors whisper and argue in side halls about what this visit means. Already, some want the Jedi seized, studied, for the good of mankind. The custards keep those voices at bay, for now. "You will leave by another path," their guide says. "A more direct one. The throne has opened a narrow channel. It will take you back near your anomaly. Use it before it closes. As they walk back to the Concord, they pass the pilgrims again. This time, some of the people bow not just to Varro, but to the robed strangers at his side. Two kinds of knights, someone murmurs. Maybe the Emperor is not alone, another whispers. Anakin hears this. He smiles a little, despite the weight on his mind. Maybe he isn't, he thinks. Maybe none of us should be. In the Concord's chapel, before departure, Varro and Obi-Wan kneel side by side. They do not say the same words, but they are, both quiet. "What are you praying for?" Obi-Wan asks at last. "Strength to follow a harder path," Varro says. "You?" "Wisdom to know which path is actually harder," Obi-Wan answers. They share a brief, tired smile. Then the engines light. The Concorde turns its nose back toward the dark. The rift waits. And in its depths, Dooku schemes, Sidious smiles, and the echo of Galerius's laughter fades into a deeper, more dangerous quiet. They are going home. But home now means two galaxies, and the choice of how to protect both is coming. The Concorde rides the narrow channel back toward the wound in the sky. Outside, the bridge between galaxies boils. Inside, the ship is quiet. Rex checks his rifle for the 10th time. Ahsoka leans against a bulkhead, eyes closed, feeling the strange mix of force and warp slip past the hull. Plo Koon sits in calm meditation, breathing slow. Varro stands alone in the small chapel. Candles flicker before a simple iron aquila. His helmet rests on the floor. He holds the symbol at his throat in one gauntleted hand and stares at it. Two galaxies, he murmurs. One Emperor, one Force, one Marine. It is too much. The aquila warms. Golden light spills between his fingers. The world falls away. He is back in the endless dark, standing on the bridge of light between two oceans. On one side, the warp churns. On the other, the force flows. Above him, the shape of the golden throne glows faintly. The supreme authority is not a single figure now. He feels the Emperor's will like a mountain at his back. He feels the force like a deep, calm sea ahead. They do not merge, but for this moment, they agree. Three visions form before him. The first path opens on Terra. He sees himself step off the Concorde into the palace again. He kneels and offers his bolter and blade to the custodes. "I return," that Varro says. "Seal the rift from our side. Let the other galaxy fight its own war." He watches fleets of the Imperium fire cyclonic torpedoes into the rift. On the Star Wars side, the anomaly shrinks, then collapses. The Republic and Separatists stare at empty space. Coruscant fights on, but he sees the Senate fall under Palpatine's hand. He sees the clones turn their guns on the Jedi. He sees Anakin in black armor, a mask breathing, a red blade ignited. He sees Luke Skywalker later, standing on a metal bridge, torn between hope and hate. He sees Kylo Ren years after that, lost in his own rage. Varro's hands stay clean in this vision. He leads crusades in his own galaxy. He never again hears a child on Coruscant whisper, "Thank you." The Emperor's will whispers the cost. You saved trillions in one galaxy by letting another burn without your hand. The vision fades. The second path opens. Varro sees himself break all chains. He cuts the link to Terra. He ignores the Jedi Council. He takes the Concorde and turns it into a roaming fortress, moving between galaxies on his own. Judgment. On Mandalore, he helps Bo-Katan kill Darth Maul and free the capital. On some worlds, he tears down tyrants. On others, he burns cults in cleansing fire. Clones paint his symbol on their armor, calling him the Wandering Captain. Mandalorian children carve his shape into helmets, but there is no rule above his own will. He sees himself years later, older and harder. He watches as he orders a bombardment on a city because it will save more lives later. He sees himself becoming what Galerius promised, free but hollow. The warp and the dark side both smile in this path. You became a weapon without a scabbard. The third path opens. Here, he sees a hall on Coruscant, not the Jedi Temple, not the Senate, a new chamber. On one wall, the crest of the Jedi Order. On another, the double-headed eagle of the Imperium. Between them hangs a new sigil, an aquila, whose central line is a simple blade of light. He sees himself standing there in armor that is still blue, still ultramarine, but marked with that joint sign. Yoda, Mace, and other masters stand on one side, custodes and grim imperial envoys on the other. In this path, he walks between. Sometimes he says no to Terra. Sometimes he says no to the Jedi. He fights to close the rift from the Star Wars side, not by burning worlds, but by hard, careful strikes. He is not always obeyed. He is not always loved. He sees himself dragged down into mud beside clones and Mandalorians, not leading from far above. He sees himself telling Anakin in some future moment, "You can stop here," when the young man is one step from a terrible choice. Not all falls are stopped in this path. Some tragedies still happen, but fewer. And when he dies in this vision, it is not on a throne, but on a battlefield, buying time for others to decide better. The Emperor's will and the quiet core of the Force speak together. Return, free agent, sanctioned servant. Varro's fists clench. Path 1 is clean cowardice, he thinks. I save my own comfort. I pretend others' suffering is not my duty. He looks at the second. Path 2 is pride, he thinks. I become my own god. I will always be right, even when I am wrong. He looks at the third. Path 3 is compromise, he thinks slowly. Chain and freedom tied together. Harder, messier, no easy glories. He kneels on the bridge of light. I choose the third path, he says. Sanctioned servant. I will be a bridge with limits. I will fight in their galaxy under rules that hurt my pride. I will still answer to you, my Emperor, and I will listen when their masters tell me I go too far. The weight presses on his shoulders. A hand rests there. Not flesh, not light. Will. So be it, the Emperor's presence says. So be it, the Force echoes. Light slams into his chest. He gasps and opens his eyes. Back in the chapel of the Concord, he falls forward, catching himself with both hands. His armor hums. Down, beneath the ceramite, his skin burns. He tears open his chest plate. On the flesh over his heart, the Aquila brand has changed. The wings are the same, but down the center, a thin, simple line of scar glows faintly, like a lightsaber seen at a distance. He picks up his helmet. On its brow, a new mark appears in scraped metal, a small straight line between the eyes. He hears Yoda's voice in his mind. Choice you have made, the old master says. Heavy one. No turning back there is. Varro smiles just a little. I do not want to turn back, he says. Up to now, Varro has seen 3 futures. Abandoning the Star Wars galaxy, becoming a lawless warlord, or binding himself under both the Emperor and the Jedi with strict limits. He has chosen the hardest path, sanctioned servant and bridge, and it has already marked him in flesh and warplate. When he steps into the Concord's war room, everyone can feel the change. Anakin looks up. Something's different, he says. You feel different. Plo tilts his head. You carry 2 kinds of weight now, Plo says. Yours, and something older. Rex whistles softly. New scratches on your helmet, sir, he says. Looks like a saber line. Varro nods. New mandate, he says simply. The hollow in the middle of the room shows the rift. It has grown again. Now it hangs near a blue-white world with broken clouds and scarred land. Mandalore. Bo-Katan's cruiser icon sits nearby. Separatist ships ring the anomaly like teeth. Spidery new structures cling to the edges, a web of metal and energy. Ultramarines' hollow flickers beside the image. The anomaly has drifted along hyperspace currents, he says. It now sits at the edge of the Mandalore system. The Separatists dragged their lab components there and built a full-scale null array around it. They are preparing something big. Bo-Katan's face appears on another hollow. Her helmet hangs at her belt. Her eyes are hard. They chose Mandalore, she says, because we are near the old lanes and we are weak enough to push around, strong enough to matter. If they fire that thing, it won't just hurt your Marine. It'll crush anyone who lives by the Force. And I'll be damned before I let some off-world wizards turn my people into collateral damage. On a smaller hollow, Dooku appears. Recorded, not live. He speaks from an earlier transmission the Republic intercepted. The null field, once fully extended, will cover this system, he says calmly. It will cut the Jedi off from their power, mute this warp the outsider relies on. The Mandalorians will be irritated, but with their jetpacks and rifles, they will adapt. The Jedi will not. Grievous's rasp follows in the recording. And the clones, he snarls. Still very killable, Dooku says. We will give them the honor of dying as they were made to live. A second hollow shows another angle. A central spire built into the rift itself. At its core, a black cage hums, the evolved null generator. Strange shadows move inside. Varro studies it. And the warp sees an opening, he says. Galerius will try to march through again. If the null field spreads, it will cut me off from the Emperor and cut your Jedi off from the Force. But it will leave just enough gap for madness to leak. A perfect world for traitors and Sith. Yoda appears on a small hollow, bringing Coruscant's council into the room. Then stop it, we must, he says. Plan you have. Obi-Wan gestures to the hollow. We strike on 3 fronts, he says. The Republic fleet engages Grievous to keep the droids busy. Bo-Katan's Mandalorians keep Maul's forces from seizing the ground around the rift. And we, our strike team, hit the spire and the core of the null array. Maul? Ahsoka asks. Bo-Katan's jaw clenches. He's back, she says. Crawled out of whatever hole you Jedi left him in. He's got what's left of Death Watch and a whole shadow collective of scum. He wants Mandalore and he wants that rift. He thinks if he controls it, he controls fate. Anakin's eyes narrow. Good, he says. I've been wanting to finish that conversation. Mace's hollow leans forward. Remember the boundaries, he says to Varro. No planetary bombardments. No calculations that accept burning Mandalore to save Coruscant. You agreed. Varro nods. I agreed, he says, and I will keep my word. He looks at Yoda. And you, he asks, do you accept what the Emperor showed us? That we cannot win by one terrible act? Yoda's eyes are sad. Accept I do, he says. Difficult it will be. Clones will die. Worlds will suffer. But line, we cannot cross. Or worse thing, we become. Rex straightens. Then let's make sure our people don't pay more than they have to, he says. Bo-Katan nods. And let's make sure Mandalore pays back every drop, she adds. The stage is set. The fleets gather. The Concorde drops out of the narrow channel into the Mandalore system. Before them, stars burn cold. Mandalore hangs below, its once green surface scarred by old wars. Around the rift, separatist ships float in a tight ring. Lucrehulks, munificence, screens of droid fighters. Behind the Separatists, a ragged cluster of ships with mismatched hulls and stolen markings waits. Maul's Shadow Collective, a Mandalorian cruiser marked with the old Death Watch symbol. Maul's red horns painted over the visor sits at its heart. Behind all of them, like a distant predator, the Mandalorian fleet under Bo-Katan slides into position, transponders dark. On the Republic side, Venators and Acclamators burn in, starfighters ready. Grievous's flagship shifts. His harsh voice sweeps the comm. "Jedi scum," he rasps. "You bring your new toy back to my battlefield. I will enjoy pulling it apart." Anakin grins in the cockpit of his starfighter. "You talk too. Much, General," he says. "Let's dance." Dogfights bloom. Green and red bolts crisscross space. ARC-170s dive on vulture droids. V-wings twist through flak screens. On the ground, above Mandalore's capital, Mandalorian jetpacks ignite. Two streams of warriors streak from orbit. One in Maul's crimson horns and black armor. The other in Bo-Katan's blue night owl markings. They clash in the thin upper air, blasters and vibroblades flashing. On Bo-Katan's side, some warriors wear new sigils scratched into their plates, a small line down the visor, echoing the mark on Varro's helm. "He stood between," they say. "Maybe we should too." In the middle of it all, the Concord dives for the rift spire. Varro stands in the troop bay, bolter in one hand, the other on an overhead rail. Obi-Wan, Anakin, Ahsoka, Plo, and Rex are strapped in around him. R2 whistles nervously at Anakin's feet. "We hit the spire, smash the controls, retune the core," Obi-Wan says over the roar. "Varro, you bind it with your rights. We re-anchor the rift in a way that lets it close instead of eat everything." "And if the warp and the force don't like being told what to do?" Ahsoka asks. Plo answers. "Then we hold long enough to at least deny it to the Sith and to chaos," he says. The Concorde slams into a docking ring on the spire. Mag clamps bite. The ramp falls. They charge out into metallic corridors humming with dirty power. Droids resist. Magna Guards and B2s block halls. Anakin and Ahsoka carve paths with blue and green light. Rex's men clear corners. Varro moves at the front. His bolter roars in tight bursts. His new mark glows faintly through the edge of his helmet as he chants litanies that now mix Imperial High Gothic with simple phrases the Jedi taught him. Hold, guard, no more. The deeper they go, the heavier the air feels. The Null Core's song hums through the walls, pushing down on force and warp both. Far above, on the command level of the spire, Dooku watches their progress on a holo. So does another figure. Darth Maul stands beside him, horns gleaming under crimson tattoos. He wears Mandalorian armor modified with black and red plates. His yellow eyes burn. "You made your move on Mandalore without me," Maul hisses. "You used my world as a testing ground." Dooku does not look at him. "Your world," he says calmly. "You never owned more than its fear. If you wish to rule it, survive this battle. Prove you can." Maul's lip curls. "I will take the head of the Jedi who cut me down," he says. "Then perhaps I will take yours." Dooku smiles thinly. "Ambition," he says. "You and Skywalker have that in common." He gestures to the core. "Begin the field expansion," he orders a droid. "We will greet our guests in a world where their gods are silent." The null field powers up. Energy rings flash around the core cage. Waves of cold pressure roll outward. In space, Jedi, starfighters suddenly feel sluggish. Anakin's stomach twists. "Field's expanding," he says into the comm. "Force is thinning. We're on the clock." Yularen's voice answers. "Concord team, you must hurry," he says. If that field covers the fleet, we lose more than guns. On the Mandalorian battlefield, Bo-Katan falters mid-flight as her awareness dims. "Jetpack's fine," she mutters. But something else just went quiet. Maul laughs as he feels the same wave. "Not my power," he purrs. "I walked in darkness long before I learned your tricks, Jedi." In the spire, the field hits the strike team. Obi-Wan's saber dims a fraction. Plo's breath grows shallow. Ahsoka's sense of the corridors warps. Varro's Aquila chills under his armor. It does not go dead this time. But the link to Terra becomes a whisper. "This is it," he says. "We are almost in the null bubble. It will get worse before we reach the core." Anakin grits his teeth. "We keep moving," he says. They reach a wide circular chamber. The null core hangs in the center, a black cage wrapped in humming rings. Inside, reality twists, warps of light bending slowly. Shadow shapes drift within. For a moment, they look like Darth Nihilus's hollow mask, like Darth Revan's split helm, like other Sith and monsters from other ages drawn by the same song. Then the field pulls them thin again. On the far side of the chamber, Dooku waits. His red saber ignites. Beside him, Maul's double-bladed saber snaps to life with a crackling hiss. "Skywalker," Dooku says. "Kenobi, and the outsider. How kind of you to come to your own unmaking." Maul's gaze locks on Obi-Wan. "At last," he says, "we end this." Varro's voice is calm. "We do," he says, "but not the way you think." They fan out. Anakin and Ahsoka move toward Dooku. Obi-Wan steps toward Maul. Varro and Rex head for the core's control pylons. Plo hangs back, hands ready, senses wide, even through the field. The duels explode. Anakin attacks Dooku with everything he has. Null field or not, his rage and skill drive him fast. Dooku meets him with elegant defense, red blade weaving. "Still a blunt instrument," Dooku says. "Even with your connection strained, you rely on speed over thought." Ahsoka dives in from the side, twin blades flashing. Dooku adjusts, a little slower than in the lab ship, but still deadly. Obi-Wan and Maul circle. The Force may be thin, but their hatred is not. "You took everything from me," Maul snaps. "My legs, my throne, my fear. You threw yourself into that pit," Obi-Wan says. "I just let gravity finish the job." They clash, saber against saber. Maul fights like a storm. Obi-Wan fights like a stone in its path. Rex and Varro reach the first pylon. Droids swarm. Even drained, the clone's blasters still burn. Varro rips one droid in half and throws the pieces into another. He slaps a small device, half Republic tech, half Imperial seal, onto the pylon. "R2, begin the retune," Obi-Wan shouts over the comm. R2, plugged into a wall port, chirps and sends pulses into the core. The rings flicker, the field shudders. Inside the cage, the shadows twist again. For a heartbeat, Darth Nihilus's empty gaze focuses on the chamber. His hunger brushes against every soul present. Plo staggers. "Hold," he whispers. The combined weight of Emperor and Force presses back against Nihilus's pull. The shadow figure melts back into the swirling dark. Dooku feels it. "Two old powers are meddling in my work," he snarls. How tiresome. He feints at Anakin, then turns and hurls a blast of energy at Varro. It is not pure Force lightning. It is a mix of dark side and null current. It slams into Varro's chest. His armor buckles. Warning runes explode across his vision. He drops to one knee, teeth gritted. His heart stutter, then pound. Rex grabs his arm. "On your feet, sir," Rex says. "You've taken worse." Varro laughs, hoarse. "I am starting to doubt that," he says, "but I will try." He pushes up. His new chest brand burns. For a moment, he feels both Emperor and Force together. Not as masters, as witnesses. He lifts his voice. The words that come are not a normal catechism. They are simple. Hold, he says. Guard. No more. No more burned cities. No more empty thrones. No more children in the fire. His aquila flares. A thin line of light runs up the center of his armor, matching the scar on his skin. The null field around him wavers. Clones around him feel their blaster bolts bite a little deeper again. Ahsoka feels her saber swing a little lighter. Dooku's eyes narrow. You reshape my field with your prayers, he says. How quaint. Obi-Wan sees Maul overextend. He sidesteps and kicks, sending Maul sprawling near the edge of the chamber. Maul catches himself, flips back up, snarling. You are weak, Maul spits, holding back even now. You could end this with one cruel stroke. You always refuse. That's why I'm still me, Obi-Wan says. Anakin drives Dooku back toward another pylon. Ahsoka cuts down a Magna Guard that tries to flank. They fight as a team now, not as two separate storms. Dooku feels the pattern shifting. This is not how this is meant to go, he thinks. Sidious promised. He lunges at Anakin's wrist, trying to disarm him. Anakin twists. Dooku's sword flies from his hand and lands near the core. Anakin's saber ends at Dooku's throat. The world narrows. The null field hums. The rift whispers. Sidious's voice hisses in the back of Dooku's mind. Kill him, he had told Anakin in another path. Do it. An echo of that command rises. Anakin's fingers tighten on his hilt. He remembers dead Padawans, dead clones, so much blood. He hears Dooku's words from the lab ship. He hears Varro's voice from Terra. Strength without a code is a beast, Varro had said. A code without strength is a prayer. You need both. His saber hums. Dooku looks up at him, fear and pride mixed. You have every reason to end me, Dooku says quietly. Do you have the strength not to? The null field presses harder. It is easier to kill. So easy. Anakin's breath shakes. I'm not you, he says. He turns his saber and slashes down. The blade cuts Dooku's saber hand, not his neck. The Sith Lord cries out, falling to his knees. Anakin kicks his saber away. Restrain him, Anakin says to Rex. He'll face justice, not my anger. Rex nods, snapping binders onto Dooku's good wrist and ankles. Obi-Wan feels it like a breath of clean air. Maul feels it like a slap. You had the chance, Maul screams. You were supposed to kill him. That is how this story goes. Obi-Wan frowns. Stories can change, he says. Maul howls and charges again. They lock blades. While the duels rage, Varro reaches the main console. R2 warbles frantically. Too much feedback, Plo says, reading the flows. The field is fighting us. If we keep pushing from outside, it will snap and tear everything nearby apart. Varro nods. Then I go inside, he says. Ahsoka blinks. Inside what? She asks. He points at the core cage. Inside the null, he says. I am the bridge. I must stand in the center and pull both sides together, then break the link on my terms. Obi-Wan hears and shakes his head. That's suicide, he says. You'll be crushed between Emperor and Force, between warp and field. Varro looks at him. I saw 3 paths, he says. This is the one I chose. If I do not pay this price, someone else will pay more. Rex steps forward. Then I'm going with you, he says. No, Varro says. You must live. Someone has to remember the rules we set today. Plo moves closer. You will need a guide, he says. Even there, I can stand at the edge. I will not enter fully, but I can sing the currents away from your worst wounds. Anakin grabs Varro's arm. There has to be another way, he says. Varro grips his shoulder. There are always other ways, he says. Most of them worse. Trust me, Skywalker. This is not exterminatus. This is surgery. He turns to Ahsoka. Watch him, he says, nodding at Anakin. He will want to blame himself for everything that goes wrong for the next 20 years. Don't let him. Ahsoka swallows hard, then nods. Don't die, she says. Varro smiles with half his mouth. I will try, he answers. He climbs the steps to the core. The null field screams. His armor groans. With each step, his link to Terra fades, then returns, then fades again. The force around him thins, then surges, then thins. He reaches the cage and places his hands on the metal. Inside, shadow shapes press against the bars. They become Galerius for a moment. The traitor's face grins from the dark. You can still be me, Galerius whispers. Use this power to burn them all. Save everyone by leaving nothing. Varro closes his eyes. No, he says. I will save as many as I can without becoming you. He steps through the bars. The null field hits like a planet. His body screams. His nerves burn. His gene-forged bones creak. He feels the warp on one side, the force on the other, the null blade between. He stands in the middle and opens himself. Not fully, just enough. He feels Terra. He feels Coruscant. He feels Mandalore. He feels 1,000 other worlds. Children laughing, children crying. He does not push those sounds away. He lets them weigh him down. Then he drags. He takes the null field's frequency and twists it, slowly, carefully. He turns it from a wide net into a narrow column, focused only on the rift itself. On the outside, in the chamber, the humming changes. Plo raises his hands, voice rising. He sings in Keldor, in basic, in old Jedi mantras. Balance, he whispers. Center, hold the edges. Yoda, far away on Coruscant, feels it. He closes his eyes and adds his own will. The Emperor, on the golden throne, leans a fraction of his mind in the same direction. Two ancient powers, one bridge, one small null. The rift begins to fold, not in a violent collapse, in a slow, grinding closure. Ships outside sway as gravity twists. Grievous's flagship lurches. Stabilize, he snarls. Fire on that spire, now! Vulture droids and capital guns swing toward the structure. Mandalorian ships swoop in. Bo-Katan's cruiser and its escorts blast apart incoming torpedoes. Not while I live, Bo-Katan growls. Her jetpack ignites. She rockets toward the spire herself. Leading a squad of warriors, they burst through a high window into the chamber's upper galleries. Some land on catwalks, firing down at droids. Others grapple down to engage Maul's lieutenants. Maul sees her. You choose them over me? He roars. I choose Mandalore, she says. You chose your own ego. Their forces clash above while Jedi clones and one Marine fight below. Obi-Wan and Maul duel across a fractured bridge. Maul's rage makes him sloppy. Obi-Wan's calm makes him precise. A misstep sends Maul tumbling toward the core. He catches the edge with one hand, saber in the other. He looks down at Varro, standing in the middle of the storm. You, Maul gasps, you and your codes, your rules, they will break you. Only hate survives. Varro looks up at him. Then I will be broken, he says. Better that than live as your kind of whole. Maul snarls and tries to pull himself up. Blaster fire from above hits the edge he clings to. The stone crumbles. He falls toward the swirling dark. For a heartbeat, the shadows reach for him like eager hands. Then he is gone. The null column tightens. The rift shrinks. Varro feels his body come apart at the edges. His left heart stops. His right heart hammers. He feels the Emperor's hand trying to pull him back. He feels the Force's currents trying not to drown him. He makes one more choice. I am not a god, he thinks. I am not a king. I'm a soldier. I will not stay in the center. I will step out when the work is done. He gives the field one last twist. Then he lets go. The column collapses inward. The rift snaps shut. Not perfectly. A scar remains, a thin, dark line in space over Mandalore, humming softly. But the tearing, howling wound is gone. In the chamber, the null core cracks. Energy surges outward, then dies. The field drops. Force and warp rush back into the world like air into a vacuum. Jedi gasp. Clones stagger. The Emperor's light settles, no longer strained through a twisted lens. Varro falls out of the cage. Rex and Anakin catch him. His armor is blackened. Cracks run down his pauldrons. His hearts beat faintly. He is alive. Barely. Codex note. A wound closed by hand leaves a scar. If the hand survives, its owner will always feel that scar ache when storms draw near. The battle outside ends slowly. With their null device destroyed and the rift closed, the Separatists lose their key advantage. Republic ships press. Grievous snarls and retreats, engines burning, promising revenge. Maul's shadow collective shatters. Some Mandalorians loyal to him fall, others throw down their horns and kneel to Bo-Katan. On the surface, Mandalore's people step out of bunkers to see the sky clear. No wound, just stars. Up to now, the rift has been closed from within by Varro's choice to stand in the center of the null, twisting it into a scalpel instead of a bomb, while Jedi, clones, and Mandalorians held the line outside and refused the easiest, cruelest paths. Afterward, in a quiet chamber aboard the Resolute, the boundaries are written, not in stone yet, in words. Yoda's hollow floats above a low table. So does the Lord Admiral of Battlefleet Solar, his image grainy and stern. Mace, Plo, Obi-Wan, and Bo-Katan stand around the real table. Varro sits on a reinforced bench, chest wrapped in Medicae seals. Rex leans against a wall nearby. These are the terms, Mace says. He reads from a slate. First, Captain Varro will not bring Imperial fleets into this galaxy without joint consent from both the Emperor and the Jedi Council. The Lord Admiral's image grimaces. You ask us to leave a bridge unguarded, he says. The rift is closed, Plo says. Only a scar remains. Your fleets would be an invasion, not a defense. The Admiral grinds his teeth. Very well, he says. We will trust your scar, for now. Mace continues. Second, no exterminator shall be used in this galaxy. No planet-killing methods, no virus bombs, no cyclonics. Varro nods. Agreed, he says. If I even request such a thing, assume I have been corrupted and kill me. Rex raises his eyebrows. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, he mutters. Third, Mace says, Varro will act as liaison and advisor, not ruler. He will lead troops in battle as needed, but he will answer to Jedi Field Command in our war and to his own chapter for his own war. If orders conflict, he will choose the option that protects civilians first, soldiers second, thrones last. The Lord Admiral scowls. That is not how we arrange priorities, he says. Perhaps it should be, Bo-Katan says. We've had enough of thrones that forget the ground. On the hollow, Yoda nods. Accept this. We do, Yoda says. Trust, we grant. But watch also, we will. Fourth, Mace finishes. Any future use of combined Emperor Force power, whatever that was, must be agreed by at least one Jedi Master and one Imperial authority. No more lone bridges in the dark. Too dangerous. Varro shifts. That will make miracles harder, he says. That's the point, Mace replies. We can't have two gods pulling at the same rope whenever they like. Even gods need rules. The Lord Admiral sighs. High Terra will not like this, he says. The Inquisition even less. but the Emperor has not burned you to ash, and I have orders to cooperate. So, we will recognize this mandate of the Twin Codes. Bo-Katan speaks up. And what about Mandalore? She asks. We bled for this. We don't want big empires using our sky as their private bridge again. Yoda looks at her. Guardian of the Scar, you will be, he says. Watchers Mandalore will provide. If strange things you see, warn us, you must. Bo-Katan smirks. Mandalorians as gatekeepers between wizards and monsters, she says. We can live with that. Anakin, standing in the doorway, listens. He feels lighter and heavier at once. Lighter because he stayed his blade. He didn't kill Dooku in blind rage. He saw another path. Heavier because the war is not over. Palpatine still smiles in the Senate. Clones still fight and die. The future is still dark in many places. Varro looks at him. You chose the hard swing, Varro says quietly. You will have to keep choosing it. Anakin nods. I don't know if I can, every time, he says. That is why you have friends, Varro says, and students. They will kick you in the head when you forget. Ahsoka grins from where she leans by the wall. I have a really good kick, she says. Rex chuckles. I've seen it, he says. Hurts even through armor. Later, on Mandalore, a small ceremony is held, not grand. On a rooftop in the capital, under a sky that now holds only one thin scar, a group gathers. Bo-Katan, helmet under her arm, a few of her warriors, Obi-Wan, cloak blowing, Anakin, Ahsoka, Rex, Plo. Varro stands at the edge, looking down at the city. Children play in the streets below. Some wear cardboard helmets, painted like Mandalorian armor. One has drawn a crude blue space marine on his chest. Bo-Katan steps up beside Varro. My people have a lot of stories about off-worlders, she says. Most of them end with us getting betrayed or abandoned. Many of my people's stories end the same way, Varro says. Bo-Katan laughs. Then maybe we make a new one, she says. She gestures to a small metal plate her warriors have bolted to a short pillar on the roof. On it is a symbol. An aquila with a simple line down its center, crossed at the bottom with the T-shaped visor of a Mandalorian helmet and the round Jedi symbol behind it. Your mark, she says. Our mark, their mark. Ugly little thing. But it means you bled here, and you didn't run. Mandalore remembers that. Varro looks at it. He feels embarrassed and oddly honored. I am only one man, he says. Yeah, Bo-Katan says. But one man in the right place matters. Down in the city, a little girl selling glow rods looks up. She was younger when the rift first opened over Coruscant. Her family moved to Mandalore after the crash, chasing work in the factories. She sees the thin scar in the sky. She hears people talking about a battle that closed it. She hears names, Jedi, Mandalorians, clones, a giant in blue armor. Someone has painted the new symbol on a wall near her stand. 2 wings, a line of light, a T-shaped visor. She thinks it looks cool. She smiles, just a little, and goes back to selling her lights. On Coruscant, in the Jedi Temple, Yoda stands alone on a balcony. He looks up at the star where the scar was. He feels the absence in the Force where the wound used to be. Closed it is, he murmurs, but echo, it will, for long. He feels Varro's presence far away. He feels the Emperor's distant weight. He feels Sidious, still hidden, still planning. Battle won, he says. War, not yet. On Terra, Inquisitors write. They compose the Edict of the Twin Codes. It describes the mandate of the Bridge Knight, the Space Marine assigned to walk between Imperium and unknown galaxy. Some want him leashed, some want him erased. The Emperor does not answer them. His will has already spoken. In a hidden chamber on Coruscant, Palpatine sits. His fingers tap the arm of his chair. The rift is gone, he muses. Our outsider remains. The Jedi are slightly less blind. Skywalker hesitated, but did not fall. He smiles. That just means I must be more careful, he whispers. More patient. The game is still mine. In the deep warp, something snarls. Galerius's rage echoes in distant storms. He failed to drag his brother down. He failed to keep the rift. But he has seen enough of the other galaxy to hate it. He swears, in the name of chaos, that if another door ever opens, he will be there. In the Ultramar system, a message reaches Macragge. It speaks of Brother-Captain Varro, of a closed rift, of a new mandate. Chapter masters argue about it. Some call him a heretic, some call him a hero. Most call him what he has always been, a space marine who went where others could not. In the quieter V, his small quarters aboard the Resolute, Varro kneels one more time. He places his bolter on the floor before him. He unhooks his helmet and sets it down. He rests his hand on the Aquila at his chest. Emperor, he says. Jedi, Mandalore, clones, civilians, 2 galaxies, too many duties. I am one man. I will fail sometimes. When I do, let my failure fall on me, not on the ones I swore to protect. He rises. His armor is heavy. His scars ache. The new symbol on his chest burns faintly. He walks out to meet the next mission. Codex note. Under the mandate of the Twin Codes, Brother-Captain Varro is recorded in both Imperial archives and Jedi holocrons as the bridge who chose limits. A warrior authorized to act across 2 empires, bound by vows that place the lives of the helpless above the pride of thrones.